My mom spent a lot of my money on my sister's wedding, but I stopped it by freezing the account. I'm facing a tough situation. My mom and sister have been using me for a long time, and now it's gone too far. I want to stop them, but I worry that cutting them off completely would make life hard for them. I'm tired of always giving in to their demands. I'm 38 years old, married with 2 kids, and I've been living in Ohio for 6 years since I got married. I originally come from Houston. My childhood was tough because my parents got divorced and my dad left. When I was 10 years old, my parents split up. I was 5 when it happened. They say it was because my dad thought my sister wasn't really his child. This made them get divorced. Dad let mom keep our house and he moved out. He paid for my schooling but not for my sister's. He didn't give money to support her, and I don't know why mom didn't ask for it. Maybe that's why people believe Dad's claim about my sister. Dad wasn't around much during my childhood. Sometimes my dad would come to my school to pay for my fees and bring me gifts. But when I started high school, I reached out to him, and since then, he's been a big part of my life. He even came to my wedding, even though my mom didn't like it. Over time, I grew closer to my dad than to my mom. He visited me in Ohio twice after I moved here, but then he got very sick, and we lost him last year. Mom didn't like how close I was to my dad, and she started acting distant. To make her even more upset, my dad named me as his heir. He got married again after divorcing my mom, but he didn't have any kids with his new wife. My dad always said I was his only daughter. Mom and my sister didn't like me because dad favored me, and I got to inherit his $400,000 trust fund. But it's not just about the money. Dad supported me through school, so I got a better education than my sister. This meant I went to better schools and colleges and had a better life overall, thanks to the money Dad gave us after the divorce. I was 10 when they split, and by then the money for my education had already started coming in. I was 12, so Mom couldn't control it much. The money for my schooling went straight to the school, and later to college from the support Dad gave us. Mom did use some of the money for my sister and for things around the house. I wasn't a dumb kid, so my mom tried to keep me happy so I wouldn't complain. I won't say my mom and sister were mean to me when I was growing up, but they didn't really like me, and they were pretty close to each other while I felt left out. Plus, I was smart, not just in school but clever too. I wasn't someone they could push around easily. I think that's why my mom never mistreated me. Nowadays, my problem is the $400,000 my dad left for me. Ever since my mom and sister found out about it, they keep asking me for money. Actually, this isn't the first time they've asked for money. I've been helping them financially since I started working. As I made more money, their needs grew. I don't owe them anything, but I help them because they're family and they don't make much money. My mom works as a cashier and my sister works in a store. Together, they don't make half as much as I do, so I feel like I should help them. We might not be very close emotionally, but they've never been mean to me. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say and that I'm not confusing you with my feelings. A few months ago, my mom called me and said she wanted to fix up our house. Over the years, the walls, ceilings, and floors had gotten really damaged. Since Dad left, we hadn't been able to keep up with repairs. The house hadn't been painted, and the wiring was messed up. The ceilings and walls were falling apart in places. We never had enough money to take care of the house. Mom said it was getting hard to live there, especially during storms. She went to the bank to ask for a loan, but the interest rates were too high. I knew she wanted me to give her the money for the renovations, but neither of us said it directly. It was an awkward talk, so after that, I started ignoring her calls. She doesn't call me much, usually just once a month, but last month she called me 3 or 4 times. When I finally answered her call, Mom said it wasn't safe to stay in our house anymore because it was falling apart in bad weather. This time, she was direct and asked me for money. She promised to pay it back bit by bit. I asked her how much she needed, and she said $100,000. I was shocked. I didn't have that much to lend. She hinted at the inheritance money. I was angry but didn't want to talk about it. I said I could only lend $50,000. She agreed. Later, I realized I was too quick to offer $50,000. I could have just ignored her, but now that I'd said it, I had to lend her the money. I didn't feel good about lending such a big amount. My husband suggested that I lend the money bit by bit and check on the progress of the house before giving more. I told my mom I'd send $50,000 in parts. I had an old account in Houston that I hadn't used, so I activated it and sent $10,000 there. I gave Mom access to that account. She asked why I didn't send the money directly to her account, and I made up an excuse. It was actually my husband's idea. I'm not very hopeful that she'll pay it back, but let's see how it goes. Update. I can't figure out exactly how my mom and sister tried to trick me for easy money. It's been 2 months since I started lending money to my mom for the house renovations. I've given $20,000 so far, and I'm not giving any more after this. I always knew they were only nice to me for my money, but I never thought they would lie to me this much just to get money from me. If they had been honest with me, it wouldn't have hurt so much. Recently, I found out that my sister is getting married, not from my family, but from one of my school friends. My friend's husband is a wedding planner, and my sister has been working with his agency to plan her big wedding. They're calling it a grand wedding. I don't think my sister knew that I'm friends with them. A wedding worth $50,000 is definitely grand. It hurts to find out about your sister's wedding from someone else. I wasn't even told about it, let alone invited. I thought it would be a small and intimate wedding with just a few people, but my friend told me the guest list was around 100. It was heartbreaking not to even be among those 100 guests. Feeling sad about it is one thing, but I'm more concerned about the money. Where did my sister get the money to organize such an extravagant wedding? It was held at one of the best venues in town, with unlimited food and drinks, and top-notch decorations and flowers. I checked the bank account where I was sending money to my mom for her supposed renovation project, but it was empty. I called Mom to ask if the renovations had started. She said yes, she hired a renovation company, but the work hadn't begun yet. I couldn't stand her lies. Until then, I wasn't sure if they were really using my money for her wedding. But the thought of them spending a lot on her wedding while still taking money from me for the house renovation disgusted me. I briefly thought about flying to Houston to check things out myself, but I realized it wouldn't be worth it. Instead, I called my aunt, who lived nearby my mom's house. I asked if she knew about my sister's wedding, and she said yes, but she wasn't invited either. Mom doesn't get along with my dad's side of the family, so it made sense. She also mentioned that my sister's wedding had become the talk of the neighborhood. I mean, just a few years ago, their house was falling apart, and now they have a brand new house and a lavish wedding. Hearing this made me feel dizzy and confused. Mom told me the house still needed repairs, but my aunt said it looked new with fresh paint. Then I remembered about 6 months ago, Mom asked me for $20,000 for her knee surgery. I called Mom to ask where she had the surgery done. I lied, saying a friend needed details for her dad's surgery. Mom struggled to remember and couldn't give me any information about the hospital or clinic. She seemed caught off guard and hung up, saying there was a network issue. When I called again, her phone was off, and she didn't answer for days. I sent a text, but she didn't read it. I realized she was lying. The money I gave her for the surgery was probably used for the house renovations, and the money she's taking now is likely for my sister's wedding. I also found out my sister got engaged on our front lawn with decorations and wine. I felt like I'd been living in the dark because I had no idea they were living so lavishly and pretending to be poor to get money from me. So I decided to cut them off. I stopped sending money to that account, and when Mom called or texted, I ignored her. My sister, who never called before, tried calling, but I ignored her too. I'm done with their lies and manipulation. Just because I make more money than them, and my dad left me an inheritance while giving them nothing, doesn't give them the right to take advantage of me with their lies. I've decided to spoil my mom's princess's big day. Update 2. I was right about my mom. When I ignored all their attempts to reach me, my mom called my husband. Let me tell you, my husband can be a bit of a party pooper. I warned him not to talk to them, but when my mom called him, he did. She started crying, saying I was avoiding them. They needed money to finish the renovations, and I had broken my promise. My husband spilled the beans. Yes, he did that. I wanted to smack him on the head. He told her that I knew the truth, that she'd been using me for money, and that the money was really for my sister's wedding, which is why I cut them off. I was really angry because I wanted them to suffer for their deception, but my husband ruined everything. He also told my mom that we knew she lied about the knee surgery and used that money for the house repairs. After that call, my mom bombarded my phone with apologies. She said it was all a misunderstanding. She borrowed the money from someone for the house repairs and was paying them back with my money. It was another lie. After her constant calls and messages, I said I'd talk to her only if she promised to tell me the truth. She agreed. When we spoke, she finally told me everything. She said my sister wanted a big wedding, but they didn't have the money for it, so they decided to ask me for it. It was my sister's idea to use the excuse of house renovations to get the money from me. They knew I hadn't been to Houston in years and wasn't in touch with anyone there, so I wouldn't know the house was already renovated. I asked her why she didn't just tell me the truth and ask for money directly for the wedding. She said my sister didn't want that. She said she didn't want to ask me for a favor directly. Can you believe that? I told her I knew she used the knee surgery money I gave her to fix the house. She went silent. I told her I knew everything, so there was no point in hiding it. She said the house was falling apart, and my sister's in-laws were coming to visit, so they had to fix it quickly. They couldn't think of a better reason to get money from me in a hurry, so she panicked and called me, saying the doctor wanted her to have urgent knee surgery, and I sent the money right away. Even though I stayed strong on the call, I was crying inside. How could my own mother deceive me like this? I know they have money problems, but that doesn't give them the right to manipulate me and take advantage of my emotions. After I heard the truth, I hung up and cried for hours. I can't remember the last time I cried so much. Maybe when my dad passed away. I missed him terribly that day. 2 days later, I got a voicemail from Mom asking me to send the rest of the money so they could keep planning the wedding. It disgusted me so much that I wanted to scream at her. If she wasn't my mom, I think she was really selfish. She didn't show any regret. All she cared about was money. They didn't even invite me to the wedding, not even out of politeness. When the truth came out, I felt so frustrated that I blocked both of them. I also warned my husband not to talk to them, and if he disobeys me again, he'll sleep outside in the cold. I'm serious about this. I'm keeping in touch with my aunt, and she told me the wedding is next month. I didn't tell her about the money, but I know my mom and sister are struggling more and more each day to make the wedding they wanted happen. Good for them. Update 3. Mom and sister kept calling and leaving voicemails until the wedding day, asking for money, but I didn't give in. On the wedding day, Mom's last voicemail said she was ashamed of me and disowned me. It hurt so much. I cried a lot in front of my husband. People might say I'm mean for ruining my sister's wedding. Mom called me arrogant and selfish too. But she never thought about her lies. She tricked me for so long. I helped them because I felt like I had to. I thought of them as family, but to them, I was just a way to get money. On the wedding day, my friend, whose husband was the wedding planner, called. She said the wedding might be canceled because they weren't paying for it anymore. I asked my friend how much they paid for the wedding so far, and she said $20,000. I said that's enough for a nice wedding, but she said my sister ordered fancy decorations and food, and the location alone cost $20,000. She asked if I was going, and I said no, I had other plans. My friend knew I wasn't close to my mom and sister. To be honest, I felt upset because I felt like I ruined my sister's wedding. For a moment, I thought about giving the rest of the money to my friend to finish the wedding as planned, but then I remembered my mom's voicemail disowning me. What's the point of helping them if they disown me in the end? Maybe my actions weren't great, but they were a reaction to their hurtful actions. I turned off my phone and spent the day with my kids to keep my mind off things. The next day, my friend called again, upset with my sister because the wedding made her husband look bad in the business. On the wedding day, Mom and sister begged her husband to arrange something basic for the wedding and promised to pay $10,000 more. He managed to get decent food and decorations because the $20,000 advance covered most of the venue cost. But guests and the groom's family criticized the arrangements, and my sister blamed the wedding planner. She said he messed everything up. My friend's husband wanted to tell the truth, but Mom begged him not to ruin my sister's life. He stayed quiet and took the blame. Plus, they hadn't paid the promised $10,000 yet. I felt so embarrassed. I didn't know what to say. My friend said she wasn't blaming me, just sharing her frustration. I felt bad for my family's embarrassment, but also embarrassed they blamed the planner. My husband said they got what they deserved, and I shouldn't worry about them. They brought it on themselves by being dishonest. I'm relieved to stay away from their lies and tricks. Mom disowning me turned out to be a blessing. I don't have to deal with their lies anymore. On to the next chapter. My husband dropped a bombshell yesterday. He confessed that he's in love with my sister, but he said it when he was drunk, so I don't know if it's real. We all had dinner together with my sister and her husband, and we drank a lot. After they left, my husband and I had sex. We were tired, so we kept drinking wine, listening to music, and having a good time. My husband seemed happy, like he always does when he's drunk. We talked about my sister and her husband, and out of nowhere he said, "I'm so in love with sister's name." I was shocked and asked, "What?" He said, "I'm crazy about sister's name. I wish I could kiss her, she's amazing." He had this dreamy look on his face and kept smiling. I asked him if he was really drunk, and he said, "Probably." It hit me hard, even though I was also drunk. I just sat there silently, and he seemed lost in his thoughts with a smile on his face. I went to bed feeling confused and upset. This morning, I woke up sober and all those memories came rushing back. What my husband said is haunting me, and I feel shattered inside. He hasn't mentioned anything and seems fine, just dealing with a hangover. I don't know what to do now. He's always had a good relationship with my sister, so should I ignore what he said when he was drunk? Maybe it was just the alcohol talking? Should I wait for him to bring it up? I'm not even sure if he remembers. And what about the sex we had? It felt different. Even though I enjoyed it and thought it was amazing, he seemed different, more passionate and loving. He kept saying, "I love you, you're amazing." My sister recently lost weight and looked stunning in a form-fitting dress yesterday, and we all complimented her. She was really happy about it. I'm not sure why I'm mentioning this, but maybe it's important. I'll definitely talk to him about it when he's not hungover and can think clearly. I'm torn about whether to believe the saying, "drunk mind speaks sober thoughts," because alcohol can cloud judgment. I'm not sure if I can fully believe that alcohol alone could make someone confess love for their sister-in-law. Even if he denies it, do you think you can get past this? Because I believe he'll deny it. If I were you, I wouldn't feel comfortable with my husband and sister being together again, and that's not good for a marriage. I think he was probably just expressing his attraction to your sister in the moment. Honestly, when people's inhibitions are lowered, they might mix up feelings of lust and love. So regardless, you need to talk seriously with your husband. No one else can answer for him, and even after talking, it might be really hard for you to move forward. From experience, I know that even if it's just lust, you might carry this experience with you like a shadow. If you both want to try to make things work, I suggest going to couples counseling and getting therapy individually to help you both move forward in a healthy way. I wish you all the best and hope for a brighter future for you. I'm really sorry you're going through this. Something similar happened to me once. My ex said, "I love you," but he used my twin sister's name instead. When I corrected him, he acted like he made a mistake. But he didn't. He was actually in love with my sister. He was only dating me to get to her. You need to have a serious talk with your husband about this. It makes no sense for him to date you if he's interested in your sister. No sister would ever accept her sister's ex. At least, that's what I thought until she dated him after I. Our upbringing was tough. And our relationship wasn't great because our parents often compared us and put us against each other. I agree, most of the time, that's the worst way to handle it. It would be much better to be friends with their siblings instead of getting involved with them romantically. But I guess he wasn't thinking clearly, lol. It's painful to read about. You definitely need to talk to him about it today. He's acting like nothing happened. Do you think he doesn't remember saying it? I agree that drunk words often reveal sober thoughts. Have you ever noticed any behavior towards her that made you stop and think? Ask him directly while you're facing each other. His reaction will tell you a lot. He's always liked my sister. He gets along with my whole family and is friends with my brothers. But my sister is the one he likes the most, and we're very close to her and her husband. We usually do things together as a group. But my sister has always been my best friend, so it seemed normal. If he had only said, "I love her," it couldn't have been just a drunken slip-up. But he made sure to express his feelings clearly. His words weren't just drunken nonsense. They were sincere and showed deep feelings, especially since his inhibitions were down. People say silly things when they're drunk, but they don't usually profess their love for someone like that unless it's important to them. I would bring it up directly and see how he reacts. That should give you a clear answer. Update. Hi, it's been 3 days since I last updated because I'm feeling conflicted. I talked to my husband on Sunday about what happened. He said he didn't remember much about that night, especially after my sister and her husband left and we kept drinking. I told him what he said, but he didn't seem shocked or surprised, just that he didn't remember saying anything. I asked him if he felt that way before we started drinking. He said he's always loved my sister because she's kind and warm. He also mentioned that he thought she looked really beautiful that night, and maybe his drunk self thought she was attractive. He said it's normal for people to be curious about the opposite sex. He's always thought my family is good-looking, and my sister's weight loss gave her confidence, which made her look happy, and he was happy for her. I asked him if he had to choose between us, and he was shocked. He said I'm his wife and the mother of his children, and he loves me. When I asked him to imagine if we had just met and neither of us was married, he got frustrated and said this was getting ridiculous. He doesn't like playing hypothetical games because they can lead to unnecessary fights. After dinner, he reassured me that he loves me very much and that he's happy. He said I shouldn't overthink what he said when he was too drunk to even know who or where he was. I'm still unsure about everything. I appreciate your advice, and I've been thinking about seeing a therapist on my own. It would bother me a lot to think about how much his desire to stay connected with my sister, even if it's just a little, influenced his decision to stay with me. I could never get over the thought of him being intimate with her while using me as a substitute for his feelings for her. These thoughts would keep replaying in my mind forever, making it hard for me to feel connected during intimate moments with him. I'd always be comparing myself, feeling inadequate, and questioning if his feelings for me are genuine. My ADHD would make it even harder for me to believe that his affection for me wasn't just an act. My sister and I are very close, and we live close to each other. I've wondered if he settled for being close to her by being with me. I obsess over every interaction and mention of her, wondering if he's as happy with me as he seems to be with her. I'm not sure if what he's saying is true or if I'm just imagining things now. There's no way to come back from this. It will always be on my mind. I need to trust my instincts and stand up for myself. He admitted his feelings for my sister to me. He's had these feelings for years, but he says he loves me and our life together. We're going to start counseling, and from now on, when I spend time with my sister, he won't be there. He's confessed his feelings for her, but he says he's never acted on them in the past and won't in the future.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy, a 30-year-old dermatologist with my own skincare clinic in downtown Boston. Life was going smoothly, and I'd worked hard to build my career and reputation. I had everything I could have hoped for: a thriving clinic, a wonderful boyfriend, and a close-knit family. Growing up, my brother Leo and I were inseparable. We were best friends, always supporting each other. So when he met someone special, I couldn't have been happier for him. Tracy, you're the best sister ever. Sarah is going to love you, Leo assured me with a grin when he first told me about his girlfriend. And when I met Sarah, she seemed sweet and eager to connect. Oh my God, your skin is literally perfect. You have to tell me all your secrets, she gushed. I didn't think much of it at the time, but perhaps I should have noticed the slight edge behind her enthusiasm. My clinic was booming, and I had recently started sharing skincare tips online. One evening, James, my boyfriend and biggest supporter, handed me my phone with a grin. "Babe, you just hit 100K followers. We should celebrate," he said, pulling me into a hug. Later that night, he proposed, making the moment even more perfect. But after Leo and Sarah's wedding, things began to change. At their reception, Sarah accidentally spilled red wine on my white dress. "Oh, I'm so clumsy. Let me help clean that," she offered, but her dabbing only made the stain worse. Soon after, Sarah pushed me to hire her friend Rachel, insisting she'd be perfect for my clinic's admin work. Against my instincts, I agreed. Rachel turned out to be far from helpful. One morning, she assured me my schedule was clear, only for 3 clients to show up. All with supposedly confirmed appointments. My clinic was my sanctuary, and I found peace in my meticulous skincare routine. Double cleansing, toning, serums, and a special French moisturizer. My patients noticed. "Your skin is literally glowing." They'd say, booking extra consultations just to learn my secrets. One night over dinner, James suggested, "You should launch a skincare line. Your followers would love it." I had been toying with the idea, and I was thrilled to discuss it. But the next day, Rachel interrupted during a staff meeting. "Oh, isn't that what Sarah's planning to do?" I was stunned. I hadn't even known Sarah was interested in skincare. As wedding plans with James progressed, Sarah's comments grew sharper. "Wow, another post about skincare? Don't you think people might get bored?" she'd say during family gatherings. She'd make offhand remarks like, "It's so brave of you to post without filters, so authentic." I tried to ignore her digs, focusing on my clinic's expansion and the wedding. But looking back, those were warning signs. The final straw came after my social media hit 500K followers. At a family barbecue, I overheard Sarah whispering to my mom, "Don't you think it's a bit unprofessional for a doctor to be dancing on social media?" People are starting to talk. She'd bring up supposed negative reviews at family dinners, acting concerned about my reputation whenever Leah wasn't around. On my wedding day, as I greeted guests, Mrs. Anderson, one of my loyal patients, complimented me. "Tracy, your skin is glowing. You have to tell everyone your secret." A small crowd gathered, eager to hear about my routine. And then I noticed Sarah standing nearby, her hand clenched tightly around her champagne glass. I gave Sarah a tight smile, masking my irritation. "Careful what treatments you ask for," she chimed in with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Some of them might not even be FDA approved." 3 days after the wedding, I woke up to a nightmare. My skin was burning, red and swollen, covered in angry welts. "James, something's wrong." I panicked, barely recognizing my own reflection. He grabbed his keys without a second thought. "We're going to the hospital." The dermatologist in the emergency room was baffled. "These look like chemical burns. Have you used any new products lately?" she asked. I shook my head, but my stomach dropped as I thought back to my usual French moisturizer. Could someone have tampered with it? When I returned to work, whispers followed me down the hall. My wedding photos were ruined, my face unrecognizable. Worse, patients started canceling appointments. Rachel walked into my office, avoiding eye contact. "Your 2 o'clock canceled," she mumbled. Said they heard something about illegal treatments. "What illegal treatments?" I demanded. Rachel's face paled. "I don't know, but there are rumors on social media and in some reviews." That night, James held me as I cried. "We'll figure this out," he promised. "Someone's obviously trying to sabotage you." My phone buzzed again, a cancellation. Then another. And soon my social media was flooded with comments about unsafe procedures. I noticed Rachel darting away whenever I was near, and in a staff meeting, she wouldn't meet my eyes, especially when I mentioned missing patient files. That weekend, I went to my parents' house, hoping to find some support. My face was still raw and inflamed. "Maybe you should take a break," Sarah suggested sweetly. "Focus on getting better. These rumors will die down eventually." But there it was, that slight, self-satisfied smirk she could barely conceal. The same look she had at my wedding, just before my face cream had been switched. "James," I said that night, "I need security cameras at the clinic." And it's time we looked into Sarah and Rachel. By Friday, the cameras were up, and by Monday, I had the footage I needed. At 7 a.m., Rachel could be seen sneaking into my office, copying patient files and photographing confidential documents. I pulled up the video on my laptop and called her in. I've already called the police, I told her, watching her expression crumble. Unless you want to tell me what's really going on. Rachel's resolve crumbled instantly. Sarah made me do it, she whispered, trembling. She threatened to expose my old DUI if I didn't help her. Help her do what? I pressed. She's been collecting patient information, doctoring reviews, spreading rumors. She's the one who put chemical peel solution in your face cream at the wedding. My hands shook as I called a friend in the FBI's cyber crimes unit. Lisa, I need you to look into someone for me. What she found was staggering. Sarah had a pattern. 3 cities, 3 different names, each time targeting a successful woman and leaving her reputation in shambles. A boutique owner in Miami, a real estate agent in Chicago, both left financially and professionally devastated. Lisa's investigation turned up even more. She's been siphoning money from Leo's business, small amounts over time, adding up to nearly $200,000. I confronted Rachel again, demanding to see everything. She handed over her phone, which held screenshots of Sarah's messages orchestrating each act of sabotage, photos of her tampering with my products, and even a video of her sneering. Karma's coming for that perfect little face. When I showed Leo the evidence, he went pale. The missing funds. I thought it was a software error, he whispered, devastated. At the next family dinner, Sarah tried her usual games. I heard more disturbing things about Tracy's clinic, she started, her tone laced with false concern. Like what, Sarah? I cut in smoothly. The lies you've been spreading. Or should we discuss the money you stole from Leo? She froze, eyes wide. I don't know what you're talking about. Then let's ask Jennifer, the boutique owner from Miami. She's actually in town. Want to say hello? Sarah's face went pale as she stumbled back, nearly knocking over her wine glass. Leo's voice was ice cold. Save it. The FBI has already confirmed everything. My phone buzzed just then with another message, another victim of Sarah's schemes, ready to come forward. One by one, more messages flooded in from women who had fallen prey to her malicious plots. You really should have checked if any of your past victims were in my patient database, I told her as she backed away from the table, stunned. Turns out, successful women talk to each other. And I watched, relieved and empowered, as they led Sarah away in handcuffs, her designer handbag replaced by an orange jumpsuit. Rachel's testimony about the fraud was the final nail in Sarah's coffin. Your Honor, the prosecutor declared, we have clear evidence of embezzlement totaling over $800,000 across multiple businesses, including her husband's company. In a matter of days, Sarah's beauty blog imploded. Brand after brand announced, we are terminating all sponsorships, effective immediately. Leo's words during their jail visit were simple but final. I want a divorce. The psychological evaluation results were eye-opening, confirming what so many of us had suspected. That evening, my phone buzzed with a message from Jennifer, the Miami boutique owner. Support group meeting tonight. 20 of Sarah's victims and counting. At the meeting, I looked around at the women Sarah had hurt. You know what's beautiful? I said to them, watching karma work in real time. My skin had healed just in time for my rescheduled wedding. This time, when I walked down the aisle, my glow was all natural. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the minister declared, and as James and I kissed, our guests cheered. 6 months later, my clinic had expanded to 3 new locations. Patients would come up to me, inspired. Your story gave me the courage to speak out about my own toxic sister-in-law. They'd say. At the National Beauty and Wellness Convention, I spoke to a packed audience. Success is the best revenge, I told them, but karma? Karma's free. A guard later told me that Sarah had watched my speech on the Recreation Room TV, her carefully constructed facade finally cracking. Breaking news, the TV anchor announced, celebrity dermatologist Tracy launches groundbreaking skincare line with pre-orders exceeding 1 million units. In her cell, Sarah read the newspaper, her face a mask of disbelief as she saw the headline. Fraud scheme mastermind faces 15 years. No more luxury creams where she was going. You've started a movement, James said as we celebrated the launch of my 4th clinic. Those support group meetings had been helping so many people. Leo had found love again, too, this time with someone genuine. At their wedding, I raised a toast. To real relationships built on love, not lies. Footage of Sarah tampering with my face cream became part of a documentary on identifying toxic behavior. If I can help even one person recognize the signs, I told the filmmaker, then every scar was worth it. Last I heard, Sarah had been denied parole. Apparently, she showed no genuine remorse, her manipulative tendencies still on full display. As for me, I'm too busy living my best life to think of her much. My skincare empire continues to grow, and every product label includes a reminder, your success is your sweetest revenge. Sarah thought she was destroying me, but in the end she taught me the most valuable lesson of all. Toxic people are life's way of showing you exactly who you're not meant to be. So, what would you do if someone close to your family tried to destroy you and had a history of hurting others? Would you expose them immediately, or would you gather evidence first? Let me know in the comments. Hey there, I'm Julie Thompson, -28, a rising star in marketing and about to marry the love of my life. Everything was perfect, or so I thought. Julie, you look stunning. My best friend Jessica beamed, adjusting my veil with a grin. Thanks, Jess. I can't believe this day is finally here. I took a deep breath, steadying myself as I prepared to walk down the aisle. My heart melted when I saw Mark's face light up. God, I love that man. The ceremony was flawless, like a dream. But the reception, that's when things took a dark turn. Julie, darling, Eleanor, Mark's mother, called out with a toast in hand. To my new daughter-in-law. Eleanor and I had never truly clicked. She always seemed to think I was unworthy of her son. But maybe today was different, an olive branch. Thanks, Eleanor, I replied, accepting the champagne glass and hoping for a fresh start. I took a sip and in the corner of my eye, spotted two unexpected faces, my parents. We hadn't spoken in years, not since I'd left home at 18. Mark, my parents are here. I don't know what to do. Mark squeezed my hand reassuringly. It's okay, babe. We'll handle it together. We made our way toward them, but as we approached, the room started to spin. Sounds blurred and my vision grew hazy. Mark, I don't feel so good. Julie, what's wrong? His voice sounded distant. I reached out, trying to focus, but everything faded to black. The last thing I saw was Eleanor's face, smiling, but there was something sinister in her expression. When I came to, I was lying on a cold, hard floor, not the plush hotel bed I'd expected. My head throbbed as I looked around, panic rising. This place was unfamiliar, dimly lit, and silent. Hello? Is anyone there? My voice echoed, but there was no answer. I tried to stand, legs trembling beneath me. My wedding dress, once pristine, was now dirty and wrinkled, and my ring, it was gone. Mark? Mark? I called out, desperation in my voice. Silence, then faint footsteps and voices from above. I strained to listen. She's gone, Mark. I'm so sorry, sweetie. Eleanor's voice, thick with mock sympathy. My blood ran cold. What was going on? Days blurred together in that dark, windowless basement. I pieced together fragments of conversations, slowly realizing the horrifying truth. One day, I heard Eleanor's heels clicking on the stairs. The door creaked open, flooding the room with light. She stood there, silhouetted, her gaze filled with cold satisfaction. Well, how's the runaway bride? Eleanor, what's happening? Let me out of here. She laughed, a sound that chilled me to the core. Oh, Julie, you naive little girl. Did you really think you could take my son from me? Take him? We're in love. We got married. A marriage that never should have happened, she sneered. As far as everyone knows, he got cold feet and ran away. Poor Mark, devastated, left with only his mother to comfort him. My blood ran cold. You're lying. Mark would never believe that. Wouldn't he? Eleanor's smile was vicious. He's always trusted his mother, just as he did with the last girlfriend who disappeared mysteriously. What are you talking about? Eleanor's eyes gleamed with twisted satisfaction. Oh, you didn't know. You're not the first, Julie. I've grown quite good at removing obstacles. Now be a good girl and stay put. In a few months, you'll be declared dead. Mark will move on, with me guiding him, of course. You're insane. You can't keep me here forever, I spat. Her cold smile never wavered. Watch me. The door slammed shut, casting me back into darkness. I tried everything, picking a lock, breaking the tiny window, even digging at the walls. Nothing worked. Days blurred into weeks, and I was left in isolation with only the sickening echo of Mark's devastated voice drifting down to me, punctuated by Eleanor's nauseating, faint sympathy. My hope was dwindling. One particularly dark day, curled in a corner, something caught my eye, a faint glint under an old shelf. Crawling over, hardly daring to hope, I reached out, an old flip phone, half covered in dust. With trembling fingers, I flipped it open. It had power and signal. For the first time in what felt like eternity, a smile tugged at my lips. Eleanor thought she had won, but she'd made one fatal mistake. Never underestimate a woman with nothing left to lose. Clutching the phone to my chest, I steadied myself. This was my lifeline. I couldn't risk a single wrong move. But as I sat there, mind racing with plans and possibilities, one thing became crystal clear. Eleanor Wilson had no idea who she was dealing with, and she was going to regret ever crossing Julie Thompson. With shaking hands, I dialed Jessica's number, my heart pounding as it rang. "Hello?" "Jess, it's me, Julie." A beat of stunned silence, then Julie, "Oh my God, where are you?" "Everyone's been so worried." "Listen carefully," I whispered. "I didn't run away. Eleanor drugged me. I'm locked in her basement." Another beat of silence. Then Julie, that's insane. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" "I swear on our friendship, Jess, I'm telling the truth. I need you to believe me." She hesitated. "This is a lot to take in." "I know, but please, I need you to help me look into some things, discreetly." "What things?" "Eleanor's past, the family business, finances, Mark's ex-girlfriend. There's something rotten going on here." After a tense pause, she said, "Okay, I'll see what I can do. But Julie, if this is true," "It is, and when we prove it, Eleanor's going down." Hanging up, I knew I had to be patient. When Eleanor came down next, I was ready. "Please," I whimpered, curling into a ball. "I can't take it anymore." "You win." She smirked, relishing my apparent surrender. Finally breaking, "Are we?" "Good girl." The second she left, I sprang into action. I documented everything, the locks, the food scraps, bits of conversation I overheard. I even managed to snag a strand of Eleanor's hair from the stairs, DNA evidence. Days turned into weeks as I played the role of a broken captive, all while gathering intel and keeping in touch with Jess. One night, Jess's whisper crackled through the line. "Julie, you won't believe what I found. Eleanor's family has been covering up her crimes for years, and Mark's ex, she didn't just leave town. She vanished, no trace left behind." "Anything else?" I asked, pulse racing. "The company books are a mess. Eleanor's been siphoning off millions." "Perfect," I said, a wicked smile creeping onto my face. "We've got her. Now we just need to set the trap." As the 3-month mark of my disappearance approached, I overheard Eleanor on the phone. "Yes, we'll file the death in absentia papers next week. It's time to move on." In the darkness, "Oh, Eleanor, you had no idea what was coming." The day of reckoning finally arrived. I heard the commotion upstairs, raised voices, hurried footsteps. Then the basement door burst open. "Police, don't move." The sudden flood of light was blinding, and I blinked through tears of relief as they helped me to my feet. Across the room, Eleanor was being led away in handcuffs, her face contorted in a mix of shock and rage. "This isn't over," she shrieked. "Mark will never believe you." But as I emerged into the daylight, I saw Mark standing there, his face filled with horror and shame. He knew. He knew the truth now. "Julie, I'm so sorry. I had no idea." I looked at him, and any warmth I once felt was gone. "Save it, Mark. You chose to believe her lies. We're done." The following weeks were a blur of court hearings and media frenzy. Eleanor faced charges of kidnapping, fraud, and attempted murder. Robert, Mark's father, broke down and confessed of his complicity in covering up her crimes. He, too, was arrested. Even my parents tried to reconnect with tearful apologies. But I had learned my lesson about toxic people. I kept them at arm's length. 5 years later, I stood on a stage, looking out at a sea of faces, fellow survivors. I smiled, took a deep breath, and began. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the Rising Phoenix Conference. I'm Julie Thompson, and this is my story of survival and triumph." As I shared my journey, I thought about how far I'd come. My book, From Basement to Bestseller, Surviving a Psycho Mother-in-Law, had topped the charts, and I was using my voice to help other survivors reclaim their lives. Eleanor was rotting in prison, her appeals denied, and the family fortune drained to pay restitution. Mark had tried reaching out once more, but I blocked his number. Some bridges stay burned. In the front row, Jess beamed at me, my best friend and now my business partner in our advocacy organization. I wrapped up my speech with a final thought. Remember, your past doesn't define you, your strength does. We are not victims, we are survivors, and we will rise. The applause was thunderous as I stepped off stage. I felt light, free. Eleanor had tried to break me, but instead she made me unbreakable. A lesson I would never forget. Now I have a question for you. If you were in Mark's shoes, would you have believed your mother's story or would you have questioned it more? What would it take for you to doubt someone you've trusted your entire life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences could help someone in a similar situation. If this story resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life dramas and survival stories. Remember, your voice matters, and sharing these stories can make a difference. Stay strong out there. Hey, everyone, I'm Laura Thompson. Mom, you can't be serious right now. I hissed into the phone, pacing my kitchen. The counter was littered with baking tools, all forgotten as I tried to keep my temper in check. My twins were at school, Jack was at work, and I was supposed to be prepping for tomorrow's bakery orders. Not handling this bombshell. Laura, she's your sister. She just got divorced. Where else is she supposed to go? Mom's guilt-laden tone was maddeningly familiar. How about her own place? She's 35, not 15. We've already decided, Laura. Jessica will move in with you tomorrow, she said with a finality that made my stomach churn. You've got that big house, and family helps family. I glanced around our home, the home Jack and I had sacrificed for, one painstaking mortgage payment at a time. Did anyone even think to ask me? Or Jack? Don't be selfish, Laura. You always were the difficult one. That night, over dinner, I broke the news to Jack. Babe, we need to talk. My hands were trembling as I set down my fork. What's wrong? He asked, his brow furrowing. My parents are forcing Jessica to move in with us. And Madison, too. Your sister Jessica, his voice sharpened. The one who borrowed your wedding dress and returned it with wine stains. The very same. The twins came bounding into the kitchen. Dad, can we have dessert? Not now, kids, Jack said, his tone unusually firm. Mom and I need to talk. Is it about Aunt Jessica? Emma, my daughter, frowned. She's mean to us. She called my drawing stupid last Christmas, Emma added, crossing her arms. Yeah, and she never remembers our names, Jake chimed in. The following week was a disaster. Jessica arrived with 12 suitcases and her perpetually sulking teenager, Madison. This room is kind of small, Jessica remarked, wrinkling her nose as she inspected the guest room. It's bigger than my room, Emma pointed out. Well, sweetie, Jessica said in that condescending tone that made my teeth grind. Adults need more space than little kids. That night, I caught her rearranging my kitchen. The flow was all wrong, she explained, not bothering to look up. This is my kitchen, Jessica, I snapped. My business depends on knowing where everything is. Oh, please, she scoffed. It's just a little hobby bakery, not like you're running a real business. I bit my tongue, resisting the urge to scream. By the next day, she was criticizing my parenting, inviting her friends over without asking, and somehow convincing our parents that I was the villain. The last straw came when I noticed things disappearing. Toys, clothes, even household items were vanishing. At first, I thought the twins were misplacing things, until I overheard Madison on the phone. Mom's been selling stuff online again, she whispered. My stomach dropped. Where are the kids' new gaming consoles? I confronted Jessica, holding up the empty boxes I'd found under her bed. Of those old things? The kids barely use them, she replied dismissively. Besides, they spend too much time on screens anyway. You sold them? My voice cracked. Those were Christmas presents. Don't be so dramatic. I needed money for a job interview outfit. I'll replace them eventually. I pulled out my phone, showing her the listings I found online. And what about Emma's clothes? Jake's collector cards? Those weren't yours to sell. If you and Jack would loan me money like normal family members, I wouldn't have to. Then came the breaking point. Another alert pinged on my phone. $500 spent at Nordstrom. You saved my car on your laptop, didn't you? I demanded. Jessica shrugged. It must have been an accident. 4 times this week, accidentally. Madison shuffled into the room. Mom, Emma's crying because she can't find her dance costume. Jessica rolled her eyes. That tacky thing. I sold it. She can wear something else. I snapped. That's it. Get out. Already called Mom and Dad, Jessica said smugly, waving her phone. They said if you kick me out, they'll never speak to you again. Dad's pretty disappointed in your selfishness, by the way. That night, I overheard her in the backyard on the phone. Yeah, these idiots believe anything I tell them. Laura's totally having mental issues, and her husband, completely on my side. Give me another month and I'll have access to their accounts. Everything okay? My neighbor Sharon called over the fence, her expression a mix of curiosity and concern. I paused, startled. What do you mean? Well, your sister mentioned you've been struggling emotionally. We're all worried. I forced a smile, my hands trembling as I adjusted the hidden cameras Jack and I had installed earlier. He stood by, his face grim. Later that evening, I whispered to Jack, she spent nearly $3,000 on my credit card, and the kids are terrified to leave their rooms unlocked. Emma cried herself to sleep last night. Jake appeared in the doorway, clutching his stuffed bear. Mommy, Aunt Jessica told Madison to tell everyone at school that you're crazy. The final straw came the next morning. I opened my jewelry box to find my grandmother's vintage necklace, her most precious gift to me, gone. It was the one she'd made me promise to pass on to Emma someday. Looking for something. Jessica's voice was like nails on a chalkboard. She stood in the doorway, smirking. My heart pounded. Where is it? Maybe if you were a better sister, things wouldn't go missing, she sneered. What happened to you? I asked, my voice shaking. We used to be close. Please, she scoffed. You were always Mom and Dad's perfect little disappointment. Miss Independent, always showing me up with your perfect life, your hard work, your big house. Some of us weren't born lucky. Lucky, I said, my voice rising. I built everything I have. Well, she said, her smirk widening, now you can share it. Or I'll make sure everyone, including Mom and Dad, hears about your mental breakdowns. Who do you think they'll believe? Perfect Jessica or unstable Laura? She sauntered off, leaving me gripping an empty jewelry box and years of pent-up rage. But she hadn't noticed the blinking camera in the corner, recording every word. That night, as I needed dough to calm my nerves, my phone buzzed. Laura Thompson, a deep voice asked. Yes, who is this? This is Robert Clean, Jessica's husband. Well, not ex-husband, despite what she's told you. I froze, my hands covered in flour. What do you mean? Your sister isn't divorced. She ran off after stealing $50,000 from my company and maxing out our credit cards. I've been searching for her for months. She's been selling my kids' things. I whispered, my blood running cold. She's using my cards too. Classic Jessica, Robert said bitterly. She did the same to 3 other families. There are warrants out for her in Nevada. Just then, a notification popped up on my phone. Security footage from the bakery. There was Jessica, at 3 a.m., photographing my equipment and making calls. I'll send you everything I have on her, Robert said. You're not crazy, Laura. She's done this before. The next morning, Jessica cornered me in the kitchen. Your precious mixer would fetch a good price, she said casually, trailing her fingers over the stainless steel. Shame if something happened to it. Touch my business equipment, I said through gritted teeth. And what? Call the cops? She interrupted with a laugh. Who'll believe you? Madison's already told her counselor you're erratic. One more push and Jack might just take the kids. My phone buzzed again. It was Mom. Laura, Jessica says you've been threatening her. We raised you better. Maybe you need professional help. I hung up, shaking, and called Robert back. She's planning something big. I need your help. I'm on my way, he said. Keep her there 2 more days. That evening, during dinner, Madison broke. She burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. I can't do this anymore, she cried. Mom, tell them the truth about Dad. Shut up, Madison. Jessica snapped, glaring daggers at her daughter. Laura, control your niece. No, Madison shouted. Tell them, Mom. Tell them how you stole Dad's money. How you made me lie about the divorce. Jessica lunged for her daughter, but I stepped in between them. Touch her, I said coldly, and it's over. You know what? Jessica snarled. I've had enough of your perfect family act. By next week, I'll own half this house. Already got Jack's signature on some documents while he was helping me. Pretty sure the bakery will be mine too. Unstable people can't run businesses. I smiled, ice cold. Those papers Jack signed. Fake. We knew you'd try something. Jessica's face faltered. You're lying. The cameras, I said, holding up my phone. They caught everything. Jessica, every threat, every theft, every plan. You've left a trail of destruction. But do you know what's most damning? I leaned in, holding up my phone. The footage of you bragging about your scams in Nevada. Her face turned ashen. You're bluffing. Dad, Madison's trembling voice cut through the tension. I want to go home. We all turned as Robert stepped into the room, a police detective at his side. No. Jessica stumbled backward, panic flashing across her face. They're all lying. Laura's crazy. She's trying to ruin my life, just like she's always done. Like you ruined the lives of those other families? I shot back, holding up printed screenshots. Or should we discuss the outstanding warrants? Jessica's eyes darted around, desperate for an escape. You set me up, she hissed. You? No, Jessica. You did this to yourself, I said, my voice steady. Every single time you chose to hurt someone, to steal, to lie, to manipulate even your own daughter. Behind me, I heard my mother's shaky voice on the phone. Laura, we had no idea. Of course you didn't, I replied quietly, meeting her guilt-stricken silence. You never wanted to see it. As the police led Jessica away, Madison clung to me sobbing. I'm so sorry, Aunt Laura. She made me. I hugged her tightly. I know, sweetie, I know. Last I heard, Jessica was sentenced to 15 years for multiple fraud charges. She still writes to me sometimes, claiming she's changed, but those letters go straight to the shredder. Boss, my assistant poked her head into my office. You're trending again. Another family exposed financial abuse using your hidden camera trick. I smiled, thinking back to how that footage had saved everything. The timestamps proving Jessica's theft, the audio capturing her threats, the videos showing her selling stolen items. Perfect evidence for the prosecutors. Mom. Emma called from her table. Can I take self-defense classes with Madison? Already signed you up, honey. My phone buzzed with a text from Robert. He and Madison were having dinner tomorrow, working to rebuild their relationship. At least some good had come out of all this. Next month, I'll be speaking at a local women's shelter again. Turns out financial abuse within families is more common than anyone admits. But now I know the signs, the excuses, the guilt trips, the way toxic people turn everyone against you before dismantling your life piece by piece. Your 3 o'clock is here, Jack reminded me as another woman walked into my office. Another story of family theft and gaslighting. They find me now through the website, Surviving Family Fraud. Because that's the thing about toxic people, they never think they're wrong. But we don't have to let them win. So what would you do if your parents consistently chose your toxic sibling over you? Would you give them another chance as they're asking or maintain strong boundaries, even if it means losing them forever? Share your thoughts in the comments, and remember, setting boundaries isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about breaking generational cycles of enabling toxic behavior. Your story might help someone else find their strength. Hey, I'm Ekadoli, a 17-year-old girl with big dreams and a passion for coding. My sanctuary? My laptop where my fingers fly across the keyboard, bringing my ideas to life. It's my escape, my happy place. But in this house, happiness always comes with a cost. Ekadoli, get down here. Now, my mom's sharp voice slices through my focus like a knife. I sigh, saving my work before reluctantly heading downstairs. The living room feels like a battlefield. On one side are my parents, on the other, my younger sister, Emma. Dad's glued to his phone, probably answering late-night work emails. Mom's pacing, her face flushed with excitement, while Emma practically vibrates with energy. What's going on? I ask, already bracing for bad news. Mom beams, her voice filled with pride. Your sister just got accepted into that prestigious summer art program in Paris. Isn't that wonderful? I force a smile, fighting the bitterness that bubbles up. Yeah, great. Don't get me wrong, I love Emma. But it's tough to be thrilled when everything she does is treated like she's just solved world hunger. We need to start planning right away. Mom continues, oblivious to my lack of enthusiasm. Emma needs new clothes, art supplies, spending money. I can already see where this is heading. My stomach tightens as I think about the new graphics card I've been saving up for. Goodbye, upgrade. Mom, how are we going to afford all that? I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. Dad finally glances up from his phone. We'll figure it out, honey. Emma's talent deserves to be nurtured. Right, because my coding? That's just a cute little hobby, apparently. Later that night, I'm venting to my best friend, Michael, over video chat. His face on the screen is full of sympathy as I let out my frustrations. It's like I don't even exist sometimes, I complain. Everything's always about Emma. That sucks, Aika, Michael says, nodding. But hey, at least you've got that job at Chen Electronics, right? You're making your own money. I nod, grateful for the reminder. Yeah, Mr. Chen's been awesome. He even lets me work on my coding during the slow hours. Just then, my phone buzzes. It's a text from Aunt Jessica. Hey kiddo, heard about Emma's news. How are you holding up? I smile, feeling a small spark of comfort. At least someone in my family gets me. As I start typing a reply, I hear my parents' voices, hushed but tense, from downstairs. Curiosity gets the best of me, and I creep to the top of the stairs to eavesdrop. We can't keep spending like this, Linda. Dad's voice is firm, almost desperate. The credit cards are maxed out, and I'm barely keeping up with the mortgage. We'll find a way, Mom insists. We always do. Emma needs this opportunity. I retreat to my room, heart racing. If money's that tight, how are they planning to send Emma to Paris? Something doesn't add up, and I've got a bad feeling I'm about to find out just how far they'll go for her. The next morning, I wake up with a sense of dread. Stretching, I reach for my laptop, my lifeline, only to find nothing. My laptop is gone. Panic surges through me as I scan the room, my gaming console, also gone. What the hell? My heart pounds as I sprint downstairs. Mom. Dad. Have you seen my laptop, my console? Mom avoids my gaze, busying herself with the coffee machine. Dad clears his throat, his expression guilty. Honey, we had to make some financial adjustments for Emma's trip. The penny dropped. You sold my stuff. Without even asking me, my voice trembled, the realization hitting like a punch to the gut. It was necessary, Mom replied coldly, not even bothering to look at me. Emma's future is at stake. What about my future? I shouted, anger surging like wildfire through my veins. I need that laptop for my programming. Don't be so dramatic, Mom scoffed. You can use the family computer. I stared at her in disbelief. The family computer? That dinosaur can barely run Minesweeper, let alone any of my programs. Dad stepped in, his voice calm but firm. We're doing what's best for the family, Ikadoli. Emma's opportunity. What about my opportunities? I cut him off, my voice rising. I've been saving for months for a programming course, and you just stole that from me. This isn't about you, Mom snapped, her face tight with irritation. Stop being so selfish. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Selfish. You stole from me? We're your parents, Dad said, his tone brokering no argument. It's our right to make these decisions. Some parents you are. I spat, storming out of the room, fury and hurt coursing through me. I didn't stop running until I reached Michael's house, my vision blurred with tears. He opened the door, took one look at me, and pulled me into a hug. They sold my stuff. I sobbed into his shoulder. For Emma's stupid trip. Michael's mom overheard us and insisted I stay for breakfast. Over pancakes, I slowly calmed down, explaining everything. Michael shook his head in disbelief. That's so messed up, Aika. His mom frowned deeply. Have you talked to your Aunt Jessica about this? I nodded and pulled out my phone to text her. Her response was immediate. I'm coming over. This has gone too far. As I waited for Aunt Jessica, a memory surfaced. Last week, I'd overheard my parents arguing about money. Dad had mentioned maxed out credit cards and struggling with mortgage payments. At the time, it hadn't made sense. We weren't rich, but we weren't poor either. Now it all clicked. Michael, I said slowly, I think there's more going on here than just Emma's trip. We spent the next hour digging through my family's financial records online. What we found made my blood run cold. Holy crap, Michael whispered, staring at the screen. Your dad's been making regular payments to online casinos for months. My stomach churned. And look at my mom's credit card statements, designer clothes, spa treatments. How are they affording this? Just then, Aunt Jessica arrived. I showed her everything we'd uncovered. Oh, sweetie, she said, pulling me into a tight hug. I'm so sorry. This is worse than I thought. As we talked, another realization hit me. Wait a minute. I pulled up Emma's school portal. If she got into this fancy art program, her grades must be amazing, right? But they weren't. Emma was barely passing most of her classes. She lied, I whispered, the betrayal cutting deep. About everything, her grades, her art. And Mom and Dad just believed her. Aunt Jessica's face hardened. This ends now. I'm calling a family meeting. As she dialed, I felt a mix of dread and determination. My family had lied to me, stolen from me, betrayed me. But I wasn't going to let them keep doing it. I wasn't going to be their victim anymore. It's time for some hard truths, I said, squaring my shoulders. And it's time I started looking out for myself. Little did I know, this confrontation was just the beginning. The storm that had been brewing was about to break, and nothing would ever be the same again. Then the bombshell dropped. Ikadoli? Look at this, Michael said, pulling up a website. The art program Emma got into, it's a scam. They're just after the tuition money. My stomach twisted. I confronted Mom with the evidence, but she refused to believe it. You're just jealous of your sister's talent, she snapped. Stop trying to ruin this for her. I was floored. How could she be so blind? The next day at work, Mr. Chen noticed my distraction. Everything okay, Ikadole? He asked kindly. I hesitated, then spilled everything. To my surprise, he listened patiently. You're a bright kid, he said after I finished. How about this, after you graduate, I'll offer you a full-time position here. You can save up, maybe even take some online courses. I was speechless. Mr. Chen, thank you. But my relief was short-lived. That night, I overheard Dad on the phone, his voice shaky. I'll get you the money, I swear, just give me more time. Loan sharks. My blood ran cold. This was worse than I thought. The next day, Mom cornered me in the kitchen. This is all your fault, she hissed. If you hadn't been snooping around, none of this would have happened. You need to quit that job and focus on helping the family. I stared at her, speechless. My fault? You're the one's woe. Enough, she shouted. You'll do as you're told, or you can get out. I ran to my room, shaking with anger and fear. This had to end. I called Michael and Aunt Jessica, putting them on speaker. I can't take this anymore, I said, my voice cracking. We need to expose everything. I'm with you, Michael said immediately. Aunt Jessica sighed. It won't be easy. But you're right, this has gone on long enough. We spent the next few hours pulling everything together. The fake art program, Dad's gambling, Mom's reckless spending, and Emma's lies. We compiled it all into a presentation, planning to confront them at once, with Aunt Jessica as a witness. What if they kick me out? I asked, suddenly gripped by fear. Then you come live with me, Aunt Jessica said firmly. No matter what happens, you're not alone in this. As I hung up the phone, I felt a heavy mix of dread and determination. Tomorrow, everything would change. I glanced at the framed photo on my nightstand. My family, smiling and happy. It felt like a lifetime ago. I'm sorry, I whispered to the picture. But I have to do this. For all of us. With a deep breath, I turned off the light, hoping I was strong enough for whatever came next. Tomorrow the truth would come out, and nothing would ever be the same. The day of reckoning arrived faster than I expected. With shaking hands, I presented all the evidence to my school counselor and a family lawyer Aunt Jessica had contacted. Their expressions were graver as they reviewed everything. This is serious, Ikadoli, the lawyer said. We'll need to involve Child Protective Services. What followed was a whirlwind of investigations and shocking revelations. Dad was suspended from his job when his gambling addiction came to light. Mom's credit card fraud and tax evasion were uncovered, leading to criminal charges. Emma's web of lies unraveled at school, putting her graduation in jeopardy. Through it all, I felt strangely numb. This was what I wanted, right? Justice. But watching my family fall apart was harder than I had ever imagined. Aunt Jessica became my anchor. "You're doing the right thing," she reassured me. "Sometimes love means holding people accountable." I moved in with her, throwing myself into my programming projects. Mr. Chen, bless him, offered me a scholarship for a computer science degree. "You've got talent, kid," he said. "Don't waste it." As the dust settled, the consequences became clear. Dad faced legal action for his gambling debts and embezzlement. Mom was charged with financial abuse and fraud. Emma had to repeat a year of school and undergo counseling. And me? I graduated with honors, landed an incredible tech internship, and for the first time, felt free to chase my dreams without the weight of my family's toxicity holding me back. For a moment, I felt the pang of regret. But then I remembered all the lies, all the betrayals, and the suffocating feeling of never being seen or heard. I turned away from the past, focusing instead on Aunt Jessica's proud smile and Michael's enthusiastic cheering. In that moment, I realized something profound. Family isn't just about blood. It's about trust, support, and unconditional love. And sometimes you have to create your own family to truly thrive. Looking out at the sea of faces at my graduation, I felt a surge of hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in years, I was excited about the future. My future, on my terms. And you know what? That felt pretty damn good. The story ends here, but the conversation is just beginning. What would you have done in Ekadoli's shoes? Was exposing her family's secrets the right move, or should she have kept quiet for the sake of unity? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to choose between loyalty to family and doing what's right? Your experiences could help others facing similar dilemmas. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Your support helps us bring stories like Ekadoli's to light. And remember, sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the one we're born into. Hi everyone, I'm Victoria Stephen, and today I'm sharing how my mother-in-law's obsession with garbage bags exposed her true colors. 3 years ago, life felt like a fairy tale. At 28, I had a thriving real estate business and had just married James Stephen, the most eligible bachelor in town. He was a charismatic corporate lawyer who swept me off my feet. Our honeymoon phase was pure bliss, and his mother, Barbara, seemed to adore me. "Victoria, darling, you're exactly what this family needed," Barbara would say, champagne glass in hand at her glamorous weekly soirees. Back then, I basked in her approval. But hindsight is 20/20ths, and looking back, I wish I'd seen through her polished exterior. My sister Emma was the first to raise a red flag. "Something's off about her," Emma warned. "The way she keeps tabs on everything you do, it's not normal." I brushed it off. To me, Barbara's attention felt like acceptance, not control. I had Rachel, my best friend and co-worker, in my corner. She became my sounding board for all things Barbara during our coffee runs. "Girl, did you hear what Barbara said about your Christmas decorations?" Rachel teased one day. "That woman has more opinions than I have clients." Then there was Tyler, James's best friend, who saw through Barbara's antics. Whenever she made one of her passive-aggressive remarks, Tyler would roll his eyes. "Just wait," he'd whisper during dinners. "She does this to everyone." Total control freak. And how was he right? Barbara's need to control seeped into my life like a slow-moving storm. It started small, rearranging my kitchen without asking, bombarding me with texts about how to fold James's shirts the Stephen way. "Sweetheart," she'd say with a sugary smile, "let me show you how we Stevens do things." It was annoying, but manageable, until the garbage bag incident. One evening, as I took out the trash, Barbara burst into the kitchen unannounced, her face twisted with disapproval. "What are these black garbage bags doing in my son's house?" she barked. "They're just regular garbage bags, Barbara." "They work fine," I replied, confused. "We use premium white drawstring bags from Williams & Morton," she snapped. This dollar store trash is unacceptable. How do you expect to maintain our family standards with this?" I tried to reason with her. "Barbara, they're just garbage bags. They all end up in the same place." But she wasn't having it. James, come here. Do you see what your wife is doing to our family's reputation?" James, tired from work, trudged into the room. Instead of defending me, he sighed. "Honey, maybe we should just use Mom's bags. It's not worth the argument." "Not worth the argument?" I exclaimed. "Your mother is screaming about garbage bags." "You're being too sensitive, Victoria. Mom just wants what's best for us. That night, as I lay in bed listening to James defend his mother, something in me shifted. My picture-perfect marriage was beginning to feel like it reeked worse than those inferior garbage bags. Barbara's interference didn't stop there. When my dad had a heart attack a few weeks later, I had to leave town to help my family. "It's only 2 weeks," James said, kissing me goodbye. "Mom offered to stay here and help. Don't worry about anything." Those words would haunt me. The first few days at home were eerily quiet. James barely responded to my texts, claiming he was busy with work. Then Rachel called with alarming news. "Victoria, something weird is happening at the office," she said. "Barbara's been showing up at the Stephen firm every day, having long closed-door meetings with James and the partners." I tried to brush it off. Maybe it's about the family trust. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. My stomach churned as Rachel's words echoed in my mind. "No, Victoria," I overheard her. Barbara was talking to James in the break room, saying things like, "She'll never fit into our world, and think about your future at the firm." Something wasn't adding up. Sitting in Dad's hospital room, I opened our online banking app. That's when I saw them. 6 hefty transfers from Barbara to James, each over $50,000, all within the past month. I texted James, "Hey babe, what's with these loans from your mom?" His reply was instant and icy. "Don't snoop through my finances, it's family business." A chill ran down my spine. James was shutting me out. Then Tyler called. "Victoria, you need to know something," he said, his voice serious. "What happened?" I asked, gripping my phone tighter. "I was at James' office yesterday. Barbara's poisoning him against you. She's convinced him you're using him for his money, that you're not Stephen material. He's different now. It's like he's under her spell." "That's ridiculous," I said, trying to sound confident. "James wouldn't believe that. We love each other." Tyler sighed. "Wake up, Victoria. Yesterday he said you're dragging down the family name with your common job and low-class background." Each day brought new horrors. James's calls became shorter, his tone colder. "Maybe Mom's right," he muttered during one conversation. "We come from different worlds." After 10 days, Dad was stable and Emma could take over his care. I rushed home early, desperate to save my marriage. But the moment I pulled into the driveway, my heart sank. Barbara's car was parked in my spot, and the house looked different. Inside, it felt like a stranger's home. My photos were gone, replaced with Barbara's curated decor. My closet was empty except for a single box labeled Victoria's Things. "What's going on?" I called out, panic rising. Barbara appeared in the kitchen, wearing my apron. "Oh, Victoria, you're early," she chirped. "James is at the office. He left something for you on the counter." There it was, divorce papers. A post-it note in James's handwriting stuck to the top. "It's better this way. You'll never truly be one of us." I stood there, surrounded by boxes of my life, as the realization hit me. Barbara had orchestrated this all along. But as tears threatened to fall, I remembered something Dad always said: sometimes losing a battle helps you win the war. If Barbara thought this was over, she had no idea what was coming. I started dating. My first stop? Tyler. He pulled out an old photo of James' ex-fiancée, Jennifer. Barbara claimed she caught Jennifer stealing family jewelry. Tyler explained. "How do you know she didn't?" "Because Barbara planted it," he said grimly. "She bragged about it at last year's Christmas party when she was drunk. I recorded it." Tyler played the recording, Barbara's slurred voice unmistakable. "James is so easy to manipulate. Just like with Jennifer and that waitress, Maria." A few tears, some doubts. "My boy always chooses mommy." Before I could process this, Rachel called. "Victoria, you need to see these documents, like now." At her house, she spread out papers across the dining table. "I've been digging through the Stephen firm's public financial records," Rachel said. "Look, Barbara's signature is all over these shady transactions." "What kind of transactions?" I asked, leaning in. "Shell companies, failed businesses, massive withdrawals. And these?" She pointed to checks made out to Sunset Valley Casino. "The casino that got shut down for money laundering." "Exactly. Guess who was on their VIP list?" Armed with this mountain of evidence, I confronted James at his house. "You need to see this, James," I said, holding the files. "Your mother is stealing from the firm." He didn't even glance at the documents. "More lies," he spat. Mom warned me you'd pull something like this. Barbara's gambling away company money. Look at these receipts. Get out before I call security. Mom was right. You're just a gold digger trying to destroy this family. The final blow came from Tyler's recordings. Once Victoria's gone, James will have access to the partner track funds. We can cover the casino losses before anyone notices. You're talking about fraud, James's voice replied. I'm talking about family, darling, Barbara purred. Just trust Mommy. Sitting in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes, I realized Barbara had destroyed my marriage, but in doing so, she'd left herself exposed. She thought I'd slink away quietly. She was wrong. Rachel smirked as we sent anonymous tips to the IRS and SEC detailing Barbara's financial misdeeds. You won't believe what happened at the country club, Rachel said weeks later. 2 guys showed up looking for Barbara. Turns out, she owes a lot of money to some unfriendly people from Sunset Valley Casino. Oh, it gets better. James just found out his trust fund is empty. Barbara's been draining it for years, using it to cover her gambling debts. He's walking around the office like a ghost, completely broken. The Stephen family business didn't survive the audit. Every stone the investigators turned over revealed another snake lurking beneath it. Barbara's fake charities, embezzled funds, tax evasion, it all came crashing down. Did you hear about the Morton dinner party? Tyler texted me one night. Barbara showed up uninvited. Ed was desperate to save face, but Margaret Morton had security escort her out, called her a common criminal in front of everyone. Meanwhile, I was building something better. I launched Stephen Free Realty, and turns out, high-end clients preferred working with someone who wasn't tainted by the Stephen scandal. My business flourished while their empire crumbled. Then, one day, James cornered me outside my office. He looked nothing like the polished lawyer I married. Victoria, can we talk? His voice was hoarse. I had no idea about Mom's schemes. I've lost everything, my partnership, my reputation. I felt a bitter laugh rise in my chest. That's funny. I lost everything too. But the difference is, I built something better. I was wrong about everything. Maybe way. Stop right there. I cut him off. I'm engaged to someone who actually has a spine. 2 years later, I sat in my expanded office, reading about Barbara's indictment for tax fraud. The society pages that once showcased her charity galas were now covering her courthouse bow of shame. James. Last I heard, he was reviewing contracts at a strip mall law firm. That evening, I met Emma and Rachel for drinks at our favorite spot. My engagement ring caught the light as I raised my glass. To garbage bags, Rachel laughed. To karma, Emma added. To knowing your worth, I finished, thinking about how that horrible time had led me here, stronger, successful, and surrounded by people who actually had my back. Later that night, my fiancé asked why I was smiling at my phone. I showed him the text from Tyler. Barbara spotted filling out job applications at the mall. Guess she needs to pay those legal bills somehow. You never told me exactly what you did, he said. I shrugged. Nothing. Just stood back and let karma take out the trash. The garbage bag incident that started it all seemed almost laughable now. Barbara had been right about one thing. You need to be careful about the track you keep around. I'd taken mine out, and my life had never been better. So, what would you do if your spouse chose their toxic parent over you? Would you expose their illegal activities to get justice, or walk away quietly to protect your peace? I chose to let karma handle it, and karma delivered. But I'm curious, what path would you take? Would you actively seek revenge or trust that what goes around comes around? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hi, I'm Julia Allison, a 32-year-old pediatric nurse at Memorial Hospital. And I've got quite a story about how my mother-in-law's web of lies about my son led to her ultimate downfall. Let me take you back to where it all began. I met David Carter 5 years ago at a hospital fundraiser. He was this charming software engineer who couldn't stop with his adorably bad medical puns. We clicked instantly, and within a year, we were married. At first, everything seemed perfect, especially with his mother, Patricia. Julia, darling, welcome to the family. I've always wanted a daughter in the medical field, she'd say, hugging me warmly at every gathering. Looking back, I should have known that smile wasn't all it seemed. Then my son, Tommy, was born 3 years ago, and things began to change. He was the sweetest baby, but by the time he was 2, We noticed he wasn't talking as much as other kids his age. Have you thought about getting him evaluated? My friend Rachel asked during lunch at the hospital. David and I had been considering it. Even he had noticed the subtle delays. That's when Patricia's subtle campaign began. At first, it was just concerned questions about my family history. David, sweetheart, didn't Julia mention a cousin with learning issues? I overheard her whisper with false concern one day. Soon, David's sister, Emma, joined in, eager to add fuel to the fire. Mom's right, David. Maybe we should look into Julia's background more carefully. Thank goodness for David's brother, Michael. He was the only one who saw through their act. You're being ridiculous, Mom. Tommy's fine. He just needs time. But Patricia was relentless. At Tommy's 3rd birthday, I found her cornering my friend Rachel in the kitchen. It's such a shame about Tommy, you know. In our family, we've never had developmental issues. It must be so hard for Julia, knowing it's her fault. Rachel, bless her heart, shut her down right there. Mrs. Carter, as a medical professional, I can assure you that's not how developmental delays work. The tension kept escalating. David tried to play peacekeeper, which only made things worse. Honey, Mom's just worried about Tommy. Maybe we should look into your family history, he said, avoiding my eyes. Are you serious? I shot back. Your mother's spreading rumors about our son, and you're defending her. But the whispers continued. Every family dinner, Emma would arrive with a fresh study she found online. Did you know developmental delays can be genetic? Julia, didn't you say your aunt had a late talker? I started documenting everything. Every comment, every whispered conversation, every time Patricia undermined me at Tommy's preschool. Little did they know their perfect plan to pin everything on my defective genes was about to crumble. Just wait, I told myself each night, watching Tommy sleep. The truth always comes out. What I didn't realize was just how spectacularly their house of cards would collapse. Things hit a breaking point when Tommy started preschool. I'd noticed other parents whispering, some even glancing my way with pity. Did you hear? Patricia Carter's daughter-in-law apparently passed on a genetic issue to her son. Poor David, he had such a promising future. Before I married into that family, everything seemed perfect. But one day, things took a dark turn. It was pickup time at Tommy's preschool when his teacher, Miss Johnson, pulled me aside. Mrs. Allison, some parents have expressed concerns about Tommy being in class with their children. Mrs. Carter mentioned something about a family history of issues. I felt my blood boiling. What exactly did Mrs. Carter tell you? She mentioned developmental disabilities running in your family and suggested it might be contagious. I was livid, but I kept my cool. I started documenting everything. Every backhanded comment, every whispered conversation. With Rachel's help, we kept meticulous records. This is getting out of hand, Rachel said one afternoon, helping me jot down another incident. She's literally turning the whole town against you. Things at home weren't much better. David kept making excuses for his mother. Mom's just old-fashioned Julia. She doesn't understand these things. David, she's telling people our son is contagious. How are you not furious about this? But the lies kept spreading. Then came the day I overheard Patricia talking to David when she thought I was at work. Darling, you need to think about your future. Julia's genetics are clearly compromised. What kind of grandmother would I be if I didn't protect my grandchild? Maybe it's time to consider other options. Mom, are you suggesting divorce? David asked, his voice incredulous. I'm just saying there are plenty of nice girls from good families. Emma knows several who'd be perfect for you. I shook with rage but kept quiet. That same week at a family barbecue, Emma worked the crowd. It's just tragic. Tommy might never be normal. And it's all because of Julia's DNA. Patricia even showed me some articles about genetic testing before marriage. Michael, David's brother, tried defending me. Emma stopped spreading lies about Julia. This is getting ridiculous, Emma snapped. We're just concerned about the family's reputation. The final straw came when Patricia announced she was organizing a family intervention. We need to discuss Julia's genetic problems as a family, she declared at Sunday dinner. I've invited the whole family, even Aunt Martha from Ohio. I stood up, my voice shaking with fury. This is insane. You've gone too far. Sit down, Julia, Patricia commanded. This is for your own good. We need to address the damage you've brought to this family. David sat there, looking uncomfortable. Maybe we should hear Mom out. That's when I realized this wasn't just about Tommy anymore. This was about destroying me. Completely. But Patricia had no idea what was coming. For weeks, I'd been quietly making appointments with specialists, and the results were about to change everything. The intervention is next Saturday, Patricia said smugly. I expect everyone to attend. Little did she know, I had my own plans for that day. The day of the intervention turned into Patricia's worst nightmare. She gathered the entire family in our living room when I walked in with Dr. Anderson, Tommy's specialist. Before we start this intervention, I said I have some actual medical results to share. Dr. Anderson cleared her throat. Tommy has been diagnosed with auditory processing disorder. It's completely treatable with proper therapy, and most importantly, it's not genetic. Patricia's face drained of color. Well, that's just one opinion. Actually, I interrupted. I have something interesting to show everyone. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling. These are emails between Patricia and Tommy's speech therapy center. She's been canceling his appointments for months, claiming I was the one calling. The room went silent. David finally spoke, his voice cold and shaking. Mom, you did what? I was protecting our family, Patricia snapped. Julia's clearly unstable. Michael stood up, his voice booming. You mean the grief counselor Julia saw after her father died last year? The same grief counselor you told everyone was a psychiatrist treating her for mental illness. Emma tried to interject, but Michael shot her down. Shut up, Emma. David was scrolling through the emails on my phone, his hands trembling. You deliberately prevented my son from getting help. Your own grandson. David, honey, you don't understand, Patricia started. No, Mom, I understand perfectly now. David turned to me, his eyes filled with regret. Julia, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you then. Michael dropped another bombshell. This isn't the first time, is it, Mom? Should we tell everyone about Karen? Patricia went pale. Michael, don't you dare. Karen was Michael's wife who had mysteriously left town after Patricia spread rumors about her having a secret drug problem. Which was, of course, a lie. And Jessica, before that, Michael added, Dad's first wife, the one who supposedly had a gambling addiction. The room went silent as decades of Patricia's manipulation came crashing down. I didn't just sit there. I kept going. I have statements from Tommy's doctors, I said, handing out papers. These confirm his condition is developmental, not genetic. And I also have evidence of every lie Patricia has spread, every appointment she's canceled, and every rumor she's started. Patricia tried one last desperate defense. Everything I did was for this family. David's voice rang out, firm and final. No, Mom. Everything you did was to control this family, and it stops now. I watched as Patricia's carefully constructed web of lies unraveled. Family members began checking their phones, finding evidence of Patricia's manipulation in old texts and emails. It was all coming out. I've already enrolled Tommy in a specialized program, I announced, my voice steady. Without telling Patricia, of course, so she couldn't interfere. His teachers say he's making amazing progress. As the family meeting dissolved into chaos, with everyone comparing notes about the decades of lies, I quietly packed a bag. David followed me upstairs. Where are you going? He asked. I got my own place last week. Tommy and I need time away from all of this. You're welcome to visit him, but first you need to decide. Your mother's lies or your son's well-being. I walked out, leaving Patricia to face the consequences of her actions. But that wasn't the end of her downfall, not by a long shot. 3 months after moving out, Tommy was thriving in his new school. His auditory processing therapy was working wonders, and he was finally catching up with his peers. Mommy, I got a gold star today. Tommy beamed, showing me his worksheet. That's when my phone buzzed. Another desperate voicemail from Patricia. I deleted it without listening. She'd been trying to reach me ever since her social circle started crumbling. Did you hear? Rachel texted me. Emma just got fired from her firm. The charity scandal hit the morning news. Michael called next. Julia, you won't believe this. While they were investigating Emma, they found evidence that Mom's been manipulating Dad's trust fund for years. She's been stealing from her own children. I was too busy with my own success to care. The hospital had just promoted me to head nurse of the pediatric unit. You deserve it, David said when he came to pick up Tommy for his weekend visit. By the way, I filed for divorce. Mom's finally showing her true colors to everyone. Patricia's desperation reached new levels when she lost her position as head of the garden club. Apparently, her friends didn't appreciate finding out their confidential conversations had been twisted and spread around town for years. Please, Julia, Patricia cornered me outside Tommy's school one day, her voice dripping with desperation. I'm your family. You have to forgive me. No, Patricia. I don't have to do anything. I took Tommy's hand. Let's go. We have your school performance to prepare for. I hugged my son tight as we walked away. Watching Patricia retreat, I realized she had lost everything: her social status, her control over her family, even her country club membership. Emma was facing fraud charges, and Michael had made sure everyone knew about the trust fund manipulation. Ready to go home, buddy? I asked Tommy. Yes. Can we get ice cream? As we walked to the car, I saw Patricia sitting alone in her luxury car watching us. I didn't feel anger anymore. Just pity. She had built her life on destroying others, and now she had nothing. We drove away, leaving Patricia in our rearview mirror, exactly where toxic people belong. The story has come to an end. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you thought was family? What hurts more, the actual betrayal or watching your spouse stand by silently while their parent destroys your reputation? Let me know in the comments if you've ever had to choose between saving yourself or waiting for others to finally see the truth. Would you have waited as long as I did? Drop your story below, and if you want more real stories about surviving toxic family members and coming out stronger, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Sometimes the best revenge is thriving without them. Hi, I'm Elizabeth. Our family has always been tightly knit, brimming with love and laughter. James, my husband, has been my steadfast support since our college days, and together we've raised our daughter Emma, a bright and inquisitive 8-year-old who is the light of our lives. Her endless questions and playful adventures never cease to amaze us. We've embraced a parenting style that nurtures curiosity and learning through experience, which is why Emma's spirited nature brings us such joy. It's not uncommon to find her rummaging through old boxes or exploring the backyard, her imagination soaring as high as the sky. In contrast, my relationship with my mother-in-law, Carol, has always been somewhat strained yet manageable. She has a stern disposition, something James warned me about early in our marriage. Despite her strict demeanor, I never viewed Carol as a threat. I saw her more as a product of her upbringing, tough around the edges. One sunny afternoon, we decided to visit Carol at her home. She had been living alone since James' father passed away, and though she'd never admit it, I could sense that she enjoyed our company, especially Emma's. As we drove over, the car was filled with Emma's excited chatter about showing Carol a bird's nest she found in our garden. Mommy, do you think she's ever seen a blue egg before? Emma chirped from the back seat. I bet she has, but she'll love hearing all about it from you, I replied, glancing at James, who shared a warm smile with me through the rearview mirror. Upon arriving at Carol's, the atmosphere was warm and inviting. The faint scent of cinnamon wafted through the air, and a gentle classical melody played in the background. Carol greeted us at the door with a stiff smile, stepping aside to let us in. Come in, come in. It's so good to see you all, she said, her tone formal but softened by her hidden affection for Emma. As the afternoon progressed, James and I helped Carol with some chores while Emma played quietly in the living room. I was in the kitchen, organizing some groceries we had brought for Carol, when the peaceful ambience shattered. Emma, what do you think you're doing? Carol's sharp voice pierced the calm, causing James and me to exchange worried glances. My heart raced as I rushed into the living room, only to find a scene I could never have anticipated. Carol loomed over a cowering Emma, her face twisted in anger. What's going on here? I demanded, stepping protectively between Carol and my daughter, my voice firm yet striving for calm. Your daughter was stealing from me, Carol exclaimed, brandishing a few crumpled bills, her eyes blazing with fury. It was just lying there, Mommy. I was going to play shop with it. Emma's small voice trembled, her innocent explanation breaking my heart. Carol, she's just a child. She didn't understand. I tried to reason, but Carol remained unyielding, her expression one of betrayal and rage. After pulling Emma away from the distressing scene, I didn't waste a moment. Her cries subsided to soft whimpers, her small body clinging to me as if I were her only safe haven. James, his face a mask of confusion and anger, silently followed us out, the door closing behind us with a finality that echoed the sinking feeling in my gut. The drive to the hospital was fraught with tension and silence, broken only by Emma's soft sniffling from the back seat. I kept glancing at her through the rearview mirror, noting her pale face and red-rimmed eyes. At the hospital, the reality of the situation began to settle in. Doctors examined Emma and confirmed that while she had no broken bones, the bruises and emotional trauma were significant. As I sat in the stark white of the hospital room, watching nurses gently tend to Emma, I felt a tumult of fury and helplessness. How could Carol, a woman I had respected, if cautiously, react so violently to a child's innocent mistake? The question churned in my mind, growing heavier with each passing moment. Once Emma was settled and resting, James and I stepped into the hallway. The look on his face told me James looked at me, his face mirroring my own turmoil, shock, pain, and a deep, conflicted sadness. Elizabeth, I don't even know what to say. I've never seen my mother act like that. We have to do something, James. We can't just let this go. My voice trembled, but I forced it to stay steady. She hurt Emma. She could have caused serious harm over something so trivial. James ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration and despair. I know, you're right. Whatever you think is best, I'll support you. What are you considering? I took a deep breath, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I'm going to file a police report. This isn't just about today, it's about Emma's safety in the future. Your mother crossed the line. James' face hardened, his jaw set with a grim resolve. Do it. I'll stand by you. Emma comes first. And for now, I think we need to cut ties with my mother until we can understand why this happened and make sure it never does again. With his support, I called the police from the hospital. Speaking to an officer felt surreal, like I was recounting a nightmare that couldn't possibly be my reality. But the officer's calm, steady responses provided a small comfort. They took my report seriously and assured us that they would follow up. Returning to Emma's side, I held her hand, silently promising to protect her from any future harm. As she slept, her face still streaked with dried tears, my resolve solidified. No matter the fallout, protecting my daughter was my most important duty. Carol's behavior had exposed a dangerous side, and severing ties, no matter how painful for James, was the only way forward. When we left the hospital that night, everything felt changed. What was once a tentative truce with Carol had transformed into a decisive break, one made for Emma's sake and for the sake of our family. In the days that followed, we were swept into a whirlwind of legal consultations and emotional upheaval. James and I were firm in our decision. Carol had to face the consequences of her actions. We sought advice from a family lawyer determined to obtain a restraining order to keep Carol away from Emma. The process was grueling, filled with endless paperwork and the emotional toll of retelling the incident again and again. Yet Emma's recovery remained our top priority. Her usual bright spark seemed dimmed, her laughter quieter. We arranged for her to see a child psychologist to help her process the trauma. The first few sessions were difficult. Emma was withdrawn, reluctant to talk about what had happened. But gradually, she opened up, using drawings and dolls to express her feelings, a technique her therapist suggested to gently guide her through the trauma. James and I also sought counseling, learning how to support Emma and work through our own guilt and anger. Through these sessions, we found a deeper appreciation for our bond. No matter how strained things became, we faced everything together as a united front for Emma. The community's reaction was unexpectedly supportive. Friends and neighbors offered kind words, delivered meals, and even organized playdates to help Emma feel surrounded by love. Their encouragement reassured us that we had made the right decision. Conversely, Carol faced a different kind of response. News of her actions spread quickly, shocking those who had known her for years. Some tried to reach out, hoping there was a misunderstanding. But many distanced themselves, unwilling to associate with someone capable of such harm to a child. This social isolation seemed to impact Carol deeply, a painful consequence, yet, in our eyes, a justified one. As Emma began to regain her cheerful spirit, James and I focused on reinforcing our home as a place of safety and love. We updated security measures, talked openly with Emma about emotions and safety, and spent more quality time together as a family. Weekend outings, movie nights, and cooking together became our rituals to reclaim the peace that had been disrupted. Despite the ongoing challenges, through every action, every protective measure we took, both legally and emotionally. The fabric of our family mended. Emma slowly found her sense of safety again, and laughter began to echo through our home once more. One sunny afternoon, as James and I watched her playing in the backyard, her giggles carried on the breeze. We exchanged a look of profound relief and gratitude. Our little girl was coming back to us, her resilience shining through like a testament to the strength of our family in the face of hardship. Our home, once just a place to live, had become a true sanctuary. James and I grew even more vigilant, not out of fear, but from a renewed commitment to nurture and protect the peace we had fought so hard to restore. It became our mission to ensure Emma felt not just safe, but deeply loved and valued. We decorated her room with bright paintings she chose herself, and her space became a gathering place for friends, filling the house with joyful noise and youthful energy. On a sunny Saturday, during our weekly family picnic at the park, I watched Emma chase butterflies with a friend. Her laughter, pure and unrestrained, was a sound I'd missed dearly during those dark months. James caught my eye from where he was setting up a frisbee game, his smile reflecting the blue of the sky and echoing my own feelings of contentment and relief. Just then, Emma ran up to us, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Look, Mommy, look what I found," she exclaimed, holding up a small, oddly shaped rock. Her curiosity had returned, and each discovery was a treasure. "It looks like it's from the moon," I said, embracing her enthusiasm, thrilled to see her spirit so bright again. As the day came to an end and we packed up to leave, Emma hugged me tightly, whispering, "I love you, Mommy. I'm happy." Those simple words filled me with an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. On the drive home, the trees blurring past the window, I reflected on everything we'd been through. Standing up against harm, advocating for Emma, and protecting our family hadn't just changed our immediate circumstances. It had set a standard for how we would face any future adversity. The resilience we had developed, the unity we had forged, it was all a testament to the power of standing firm in one's convictions. Safeguarding one's family from harm, ensuring they feel loved and secure. This was the most vital role we could play. As Emma dozed off in the back seat, her face peaceful and serene, I felt a surge of determination. No challenge was too great, no obstacle too daunting as long as we faced it together. Our journey through darkness had led us back to light, and I was ready, more than ever, to keep that light shining bright for Emma and for all of us. This wasn't just recovery, it was a new beginning, a reaffirmation of what truly mattered: love, safety, and the unbreakable bond of family. What would you have done in a situation where a family member reacted so harshly to a child's innocent mistake? Would you have taken the same steps as Elizabeth and James, or would you have approached it differently? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt stories like this one. Your engagement helps us keep bringing these stories to you.
Hey everyone, I'm Allison. I'm a nurse, and honestly, I love what I do. It's challenging, sure, but helping people brings me so much purpose. I met my husband, Jake, back in college. He's a software engineer. We were quite the pair, the caring nurse and the tech whiz. We just clicked. After graduation, life picked up speed. We both got great jobs, got married, and even bought this adorable little house in the suburbs. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was ours. We dreamed big, starting a family, traveling, maybe even opening a small business together one day. I remember walking into our home for the first time, surrounded by boxes, and saying, "Can you believe it, Jake? Our own place." He smiled that smile that always made my heart skip a beat and said, "It's perfect. Ally, just like you." Everything felt like a dream. But as they say, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Enter Patricia, my mother-in-law. Now, don't get me wrong, I wanted to love her. She's Jake's mom, after all. But from the start, she was, well, a bit much. "Oh, sweetie," she'd say, eyeing our furniture, "wouldn't this look better over there? Let me rearrange it for you." I brushed it off at first, but then she started poking into our finances. It began small, like, "Allison, dear, do you really need that many pairs of shoes? Think of the money you could save." I laughed it off as her just being motherly, but soon it got worse. She'd show up uninvited whenever we were making big purchases. "Jake, honey, are you sure about this car? I know a dealer who could get you a much better deal." I tried to ignore it for Jake's sake. He'd say, "Mom's just trying to help. Ally, she means well." Then she started insisting, "You two should invest in gold.
It's much safer than stocks. I tried talking to Jake, but he kept defending her. She's just looking out for us, babe. That's what family does. But it didn't feel like she was helping. It felt like she was trying to control us. Every family dinner turned into an interrogation about our finances. So how much are you two saving each month? You should be putting away at least 30% of your income. The constant questions, the unsolicited advice, the veiled criticisms. It was overwhelming. One night, after a particularly invasive conversation about our mortgage, I broke down. Jake, I can't take this anymore. Your mom is too involved in our finances. It's our life, our money. We need to set boundaries. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. Allie, you're overreacting. Mom's just trying to help us secure our future. But I couldn't see it that way. I saw a storm building, threatening to tear apart the life we built. That night, as I lay awake listening to Jake's steady breathing, I wondered how long this perfect life could hold under Patricia's help. Then I saw the bank statement. A huge chunk of our savings was just gone. My hands were shaking as I confronted Jake. What's this? Where did our money go? He looked away, avoiding my gaze. Oh, that Mom found this great investment opportunity. It's going to double our money in no time. I stared at him in shock. You invested our savings without even talking to me? He shrugged. Come on, Ally, Mom knows what she's doing. She's been in business for years. My heart sank. Jake, it's our money, our future. We're supposed to make these decisions together. He just looked at me, almost dismissively. I didn't think you'd understand. It's a complex financial strategy. That stung. I may not be a financial wizard. I wasn't an idiot. So, you and your mom went behind my back because you think I'm too stupid to understand? I said, my voice laced with hurt and frustration. That's not what I meant, Jake stammered, but I was on a roll. No, Jake, this isn't okay. Your mom is way too involved in our lives. Jake's expression hardened. She's just trying to help us, Ally. Why can't you see that? From there, the argument escalated, and it wasn't just about money anymore. It seemed like every aspect of our lives was being pulled into this battle. Patricia's involvement felt suffocating, like she was wedging herself into our marriage. One evening, she came over for dinner, and as soon as she saw me in my scrubs, she wrinkled her nose. Allison, dear, have you ever thought about a career change? Nursing is so demanding, and the pay, well, it's not ideal, is it? I nearly choked. I love my job, Patricia. It's not about the money, I said, struggling to keep my composure. She patted my hand in a way that felt patronizing. Of course, dear. But don't you think Jake deserves someone more financially savvy? Someone who can contribute more to the household? I looked to Jake, expecting him to defend me, but he just sat there in silence. Later that night, I confronted him. How could you let her talk to me like that? She didn't mean anything by it, Ally. You're being oversensitive, he said, brushing me off. No matter what I said, Jake always took her side, and I started to feel like a stranger in my own marriage. Things came to a head when Patricia suggested we sell our house and move closer to her. I found the perfect place, she gushed one evening. It's a bit pricier, but I can help with the down payment. Absolutely not, I said firmly. We're not moving. Jake looked torn. Allie, maybe we should consider it. Mom's offer is generous. I stared at him, unable to believe what I was hearing. Jake, this is our home. We chose it together. We've made memories here. Now you want to give it up because your mom said so. It's not like that, he protested, but it felt exactly like that. Every decision, every corner of our lives. Patricia had her hands in all of it, and Jake let her. The strong, independent person I used to be was fading, replaced by someone who constantly second-guessed herself. One night, as I lay awake, I overheard Jake on the phone with his mother. I don't know, Mom, he was saying. Allie's been really difficult lately. Maybe you're right. Maybe she's not the right fit for our family. My heart shattered. Was this really happening? Was I losing my husband to his mother's manipulations? As I lay there, wiping away silent tears, I realized this wasn't just about money or meddling. This was about respect, trust, and the foundation of our marriage. And right now, that foundation was cracking under the weight of Patricia's influence. A few days later, while doing laundry, I found a crumpled piece of paper in Jake's pocket. My heart sank as I unfolded it. It was a loan agreement with Jake's signature at the bottom. He co-signed a massive loan for Patricia's latest foolproof business venture without even telling me. When Jake got home, I was waiting. Care to explain this? I held up the paper, my voice shaking. Jake's face went pale. Allie, I can explain. Explain what? That you put our financial future at risk without even talking to me? Mom said it was a sure thing, he began, struggling for words. She needed my help, and what about us, Jake? What about our dreams, our plans? I thought I was helping our future too, he said weakly. By gambling with our savings? By going behind my back? Our voices grew louder as the argument spiraled. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. It was Patricia, of course, waltzing in like she owned the place. I heard raised voices. Is everything okay? No, it's not okay, I snapped. How dare you pressure Jake into this loan? Patricia's face hardened. Now, Allison, Patricia said, her tone dripping with condescension. This is a family matter. You wouldn't understand the intricacies of business. Family matter. I was livid. I'm his wife. We're supposed to be a team. Jake stood there, looking torn, conflict evident in his eyes. Patricia turned to him, shaking her head. Honey, I told you she wouldn't understand. This is why I said you should have married someone more suitable. That was the last straw. Just as I was about to unleash everything I'd held back, Jake surprised us both. Enough, he shouted, his voice firm. Mom, that's completely out of line. Patricia's mouth fell open, stunned. But Jake, I'm only looking out for you. No, you're not, he said, standing his ground. You're meddling in our lives, undermining my wife, and causing problems in our marriage. I could barely believe it. Jake was finally standing up to her. How dare you speak to me like that? Patricia gasped, her face twisted with anger. After everything I've done for you. What you've done is try to control every aspect of our lives, he retorted. You've disrespected Allison, questioned our decisions, and now you've put us in financial jeopardy. Her expression hardened. That girl has turned you against me. She's not good enough for you, Jake. She's just a nurse, for heaven's sake. Jake's voice was cold, unwavering. That girl is my wife, and being a nurse is a noble profession. Allison saves lives every day. I felt tears well up, but this time they were tears of relief. Jake continued, Mom, I love you, but this has to stop. You need to respect our boundaries. If you can't do that, then we'll have to reconsider our relationship with you. Patricia, lips stricken, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. You don't mean that. You choose her over your own mother. I'm choosing my wife, my marriage, and our future, he said firmly. It's time for you to leave, Mom. Patricia stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Jake turned to me, his eyes filled with regret. Allie, I'm so sorry. I've been blind to what was happening. Can you forgive me? I was still processing everything, but I saw the sincerity in his eyes. Jake, I don't know what to say. He took my hands in his. Say you'll give me a chance to make this right. From now on, it's you and me against the world. No more letting my mother interfere. Looking into his eyes, I saw the man I've fallen in love with, strong, caring, and finally, standing up for us. It wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hope for our future. Okay, I whispered, squeezing his hands. Let's fix this together. The weeks that followed were tough, but Jake and I were determined to rebuild our relationship. We started seeing Dr. Martinez, a therapist who helped us work through our issues. Communication is key, Dr. Martinez would remind us. You need to be a united front. Jake nodded, squeezing my hand. We're in this together now, ally. No more secrets. Together, we spent hours untangling our finances from Patricia's influence. Jake worked tirelessly to get out of the co-signed loan. It's not going to be easy, he admitted one night, but it's the right thing to do. I was proud of him for taking responsibility. We'll figure it out, Jake, I said, feeling hopeful. We always do. Patricia tried to reconcile, showing up at our door with teary eyes and apologies, but we stood firm. Mom, we need space, Jake told her. We'll let you know when we're ready. I could tell it wasn't easy for him, but he was choosing us, our marriage, and it meant the world to me. Months passed, and slowly we found our rhythm again. We started planning for our future, making real plans without Patricia's input. What do you think about starting a family? Jake asked one evening. I smiled, feeling hopeful for the first time in ages. I think it's time. As for Patricia, she eventually accepted her new limited role in our lives. Occasionally, she'd send a text or a card, but she respected our boundaries. One day, I received a surprising message from her. Allison, I'm truly sorry for everything. I see now how wrong I was. I hope one day you can forgive me. I showed it to Jake, unsure how to respond. He sighed. She's trying, ally. Maybe we can give her a chance on our terms. I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. We'd been through hell and back, but we come out stronger, our bond unbreakable. Looking at Jake, I knew we could face anything life threw at us. We were a team, partners in every sense of the word, and no one, not even Patricia, could come between us again. That's the end of my story. Now, I want to ask you, how would you have handled Patricia's interference in your marriage? Would you have set boundaries earlier or tried to appease her for the sake of family harmony? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more real-life dilemmas and relationship insights.
I'm Susie, a 32-year-old fashion designer living the dream in New York City. Right now, I'm sitting in my sleek penthouse, sketching my latest design while my 6-month-old daughter Emma babbles in her playpen. Life's pretty sweet. My husband Mark, a high-powered real estate developer, walks in, grinning from ear to ear. Babe, guess what? Vogue wants to feature your new line. I practically leap off the couch, nearly spilling my coffee. Are you serious? This is huge. Mark wraps me in a bear hug, lifting me off my feet. You deserve it, Susie. You're taking the fashion world by storm. Just then, the doorbell rings. It's Vanessa, Mark's sister, looking as polished as ever. She sweeps over to kiss my cheeks, exclaiming, "Congratulations, darling. I just heard the news and we simply must celebrate." I smile, but there's always something about her that unsettles me. It's subtle, just a look now and then, like she's sizing me up. I push the feeling aside. Thanks, Vanessa. Coffee? Oh, I'd love to, but I actually came to talk to Mark about something. She slips into his office, closing the door behind her. Moments later, I hear Mark's voice rise. Vanessa, this is the 3rd time this month. I can't keep bailing you out. When Vanessa leaves, her smile seems a little forced and Mark looks stressed. Everything okay? I ask. He sighs. Just Vanessa being Vanessa. Don't worry about it. Later that week, we're at dinner with my best friend, Olivia, and her husband, Jake. Emma's with the sitter, and we're enjoying some adult time. So, Susie, Olivia teases, how's life in the lap of luxury? I laugh. Oh, the American dream, successful career, amazing husband, beautiful baby, and a sister-in-law who's always around. Jake chuckles. Ah, the lovely Vanessa, right? He winks, and Mark shifts uncomfortably. Vanessa's family. She's just going through a rough patch, he mutters. As we say our goodbyes, Olivia pulls me aside. You okay? You seemed a bit off tonight. I hesitate. It's probably nothing. Vanessa's just been around a lot lately, and, I don't know, maybe I'm being paranoid. Olivia squeezes my arm. Trust your gut, honey. Keep your eyes open. The next day, we're at Mark's parents' house for a family dinner. As dessert wraps up, his father, Richard, clears his throat. I have an announcement, he says gravely. I've decided to update my will. Silence falls. Vanessa's eyes bore into me as Richard continues. I want to ensure my grandchildren are provided for. There will be some significant changes. As we drive home that night, a sense of unease settles over me. What changes? Why do I feel like our perfect life is on the edge of a storm? In the weeks that follow, tension runs high. Vanessa's around even more, and one afternoon, I overhear her on the phone in our guest room. I'm telling you, Mark deserves better, she's saying, her tone venomous. That gold digger has her claws in deep. My heart pounds. She's talking about me. I confront her, but Vanessa just smiles coolly. Oh, Susie. Just chatting with a friend about a show, she says, her eyes glinting. Her smile never reaches them. At a charity gala, a few nights later, I notice Vanessa whispering to some of our friends, their glances toward me sharp with pity and judgment. Feeling the sudden chill, I turn to Olivia. What's going on? I ask. Olivia's face softens. You haven't heard. Vanessa's been telling people you're cheating on Mark with your fashion photographer. My jaw drops. What? That's insane. I would never. I know, honey, but people are talking. A new sense of dread twists in my stomach. It seems Vanessa's set on tearing my life apart, and I don't know how to stop her. I confronted Mark that night. Did you hear what your sister's been saying about me? He sighed, rubbing his temples. Susie, people gossip. Just ignore it. Ignore it, Mark. She's trying to ruin my reputation. You're overreacting, he said, a hint of impatience in his voice. It's probably just new mom stress talking. I couldn't believe he was brushing it off. A week later, we hosted a family dinner. I was proudly showing off my latest sketches when Vanessa reached for the wine bottle and accidentally spilled red wine all over them. Oh no, she exclaimed, barely concealing a smirk. I'm so clumsy. I clenched my jaw, forcing a smile. It's fine, I have backups. Later, Olivia pulled me aside. Susie, we need to talk. I overheard Vanessa on the phone yesterday. She's planning something big. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I couldn't catch everything, but she mentioned your designs and sabotage. Be careful, okay? The next day, Richard called a family meeting. We gathered in his study, the air thick with tension. I've made my decision about the will, he announced. I'm leaving a significant portion of my estate to Emma.
Vanessa's face flushed red. What about me? You'll receive a modest sum, but Emma's share will be substantial, Richard replied. Susie and Mark will act as trustees until she's of age. As we left, Vanessa brushed past me, whispering venomously, this isn't over. That night, I tossed and turned, the weight of Vanessa's threat gnawing at me. Mark stirred beside me. What's wrong? I'm worried about Vanessa. She's been acting strange ever since your dad's announcement. He sighed. Susie, please, she's family. Can't you just try to get along? I sat up, frustration simmering. Get along. She's spreading rumors about me, sabotaging my work, and now she's threatening me. Threatening you? Don't you think you're being a bit dramatic? I stared at him, stunned. Why won't you believe me? Let's just get some sleep. Things will look better in the morning. But as I lay there, I knew this wasn't something sleep would fix. Vanessa was on a warpath, and for some reason Mark couldn't, or wouldn't, see it. I realized I was on my own and needed to protect myself and Emma. Over the next few days, unsettling things started happening. Emma's favorite teddy bear kept appearing in strange places, and the nursery window was open twice, despite me remembering to close it. Mark, have you been moving things around in Emma's room? I asked. He looked at me like I'd lost it. No. Why? I don't know. Something just feels wrong. He sighed, exasperated. Susie, you're being paranoid again. That was the last straw. I ordered a set of nanny cams and installed them while Mark was at work. Call me crazy, but I needed peace of mind. A few days later, I checked the footage and my blood ran cold. There was Vanessa, rifling through her desk drawers, muttering, "Where is it? There has to be a copy of the will somewhere." As I fast-forwarded, my heart nearly stopped. Vanessa was leaning over Emma's crib, whispering something. I turned up the volume. You little brat, you're ruining everything. If only you'd never been born. My hands shook as I texted Olivia. You were right. Vanessa's up to something. I need your help. The following weekend, we hosted a family barbecue on our balcony. Emma was in her stroller, giggling at everyone. I stepped inside to grab more drinks when my phone buzzed with a notification from the nanny cam. I checked the feed, and my heart dropped. Vanessa was slowly pushing Emma's stroller toward the balcony's edge, glancing around to ensure no one was watching. I dropped the drinks, my pulse roaring in my ears. Emma, I screamed, bursting onto the balcony and lunging for the stroller just as it teetered dangerously close to the edge. I grabbed the handle and pulled it back, holding Emma close as she wailed in fright. Vanessa stumbled back, her face a mask of shock and something darker. What the hell is going on? Mark shouted, eyes darting between us. I turned to Vanessa, fury making my voice tremble. Tell them what you were about to do. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, feigning innocence. I was just looking at the view with Emma. Liar, I screamed, pulling out my phone. I have it all on video, the snooping, the threats, everything. Mark's face strained as he watched the footage. He turned to her, his expression darkening. Vanessa, how could you? Her resolve crumbled, tears streaming down her face. It's not fair. I'm family too. Why does that little brat get everything? Richard stepped forward, his voice cutting through the tension. Because you're not family, not anymore. As she was led away, sobbing and screaming, Mark turned to me, his eyes full of regret.
Susie, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I cradled Emma close, hurt and anger finally catching up with me. Yeah, you should have. That night, as I checked on Emma for the 100th time, an idea struck. I grabbed my sketchpad and began drawing furiously, losing myself in the designs. By morning, the room was filled with sketches. Mark came in, surprised. What's all this? My new line, I said, smiling. I'm calling it Guardian Angel. It's about protection, empowerment. I held up one of the sketches. This one's a baby monitor disguised as a teddy bear. And here's a stroller with built-in safety features. I want to turn this nightmare into something positive. Mark's face softened. Susie, I know I messed up. Big time. How can I make this right? I looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. We need a fresh start, away from here, away from all these memories. He nodded slowly, determination setting in. Whatever you need. Soon after, we moved into a new place. Olivia and Jake dropped by to help us settle in, bringing champagne. To new beginnings. Olivia toasted, grinning. Sweet digs, Jake whistled, looking around. How's the fashion line coming along? It's almost ready, I said, excitement bubbling up. The show's next month. Mark wrapped an arm around me. She's going to blow everyone away. For the first time in months, I felt hopeful. The night of the fashion show arrived, and as I peeked out from backstage, I spotted Mark in the front row, Emma perched on his lap. Richard and Olivia sat beside them, pride radiating from their faces. The lights dimmed, and I took a deep breath as the first model stepped onto the runway, showing off a chic coat with hidden safety features. The crowd gasped, appreciative murmurs filling the room. As the final model walked off, I stepped onto the runway. The applause was deafening. Mark rose, Emma clapping in his arms, and I blew them a kiss, my heart swelling. At the after-party, Richard pulled me aside, his expression full of warmth. Susie, I want you to know how proud I am. You turned tragedy into triumph. I smiled, watching as Mark twirled Emma in his arms. Sometimes, I said softly, we all have a guardian angel inside us. We just need a reminder to let it out. As I joined my family on the dance floor, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we face them together, stronger than ever. What about you? If you were in Susie's shoes, would you have forgiven Mark for dubbing you? Or would his initial disbelief have been a deal breaker? Share your thoughts in the comments. Hey, everyone, I'm Margaret, just your average 17-year-old trying to survive senior year in the suburbs of Chicago. But trust me, things are about to get way more complicated. Margaret, honey, have you started on those college applications yet? Grandma Eleanor's voice echoed from the kitchen, breaking my focus from the stack of brochures on my desk. Working on it, Grandma, I called back with a sigh. This is my life now, living with my grandparents, George and Eleanor Thompson, ever since I lost my parents in a car crash when I was little. They're amazing people, really, maybe a little too amazing, if you know what I mean. Suddenly, my phone buzzed, lighting up with my best friend Zoo's face. Hey, debate team superstar. Ready to get crushed at tomorrow's practice, she teased, her grin bright on the screen. I laughed, rolling my eyes. In your dreams, Chen. But seriously, how do you do it? Top grades, debate champ, and you make me look bad in every class. Zoe shrugged, winking. It's a gift. Don't worry, you've got other talents, like, being tall. Gee, thanks. I smirked. Just then, a text from my boyfriend, Trevor, popped up. Good luck on your Stanford app, babe. You've got this. Yo twisted in my stomach. Trevor, the school's basketball hotshot, thought I was Stanford material. If only he knew. Margaret, Mr. Jenkins is on the phone, Grandpa George called out. He wants to discuss your college options. Of course, Mr. Jenkins, our overenthusiastic guidance counselor, probably wanted to push more Ivy League brochures my way. Coming, I shouted, then muttered under my breath, to my doom. As I headed downstairs, I caught a glimpse of my grandparents whispering in the kitchen. But George, what if she doesn't get in? Grandma's voice was barely audible. We promised her parents. Don't worry, Eleanor, Grandpa reassured her. We'll make sure she succeeds. By any means necessary. I froze. By any means necessary. I tried to shake off the strange feeling that crept up my spine, but Alexis Foster's words from earlier that day replayed in my head. Better step up your game, Thompson. Those safety schools won't impress anyone. I gritted my teeth. Alexis was always trying to one-up me. Maybe she was right. Was I really cut out for this? I picked up the phone, ready to talk to Mr. Jenkins, but I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was about to get a whole lot messier. Little did I know, I was about to get tangled in a web of secrets that would turn my world upside down. Later, I walked into the school gym, transformed for the college fair. Banners from prestigious universities hung everywhere, and nervous seniors buzzed around, chatting with recruiters. I spotted Grandma Eleanor waving me over. She and Grandpa George were deep in conversation with a Yale recruiter. There she is, Grandma called out, her smile widening. Our Margaret is quite the achiever, Grandpa boasted. Valedictorian of her class, you know. I froze. Valedictorian? I wasn't even close. Oh, and she founded the debate team, Grandma added, her eyes gleaming with pride. Such a leader, our girl. My mind spun. I only joined the debate team last year. The Yale recruiter looked impressed. Quite a resume, and I understand you organize a citywide animal adoption event. I opened my mouth, stunned, but Grandpa jumped in before I could speak. Yes, hundreds of animals found homes because of her. I felt sick. The truth was, I'd volunteered at one adoption event, walking dogs for a couple of hours. Oh, and don't forget her internships and research projects. Grandma beamed. Internships. Research projects. I stammered an excuse and ducked into a quiet corner. My phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. Where are you? Zoe texted. These college folks are looking for the famous Margaret Thompson. Famous. Oh no. Later that night, I couldn't hold back. I confronted my grandparents in the living room. What were you thinking? I demanded. Those were all lies. Grandma gave me a confused look. Lies? We were just embellishing a little. Everyone does it, dear. Embellishing. I echoed, incredulous. You said I was valedictorian. Grandpa waved his hand dismissively. Details, details. We're just trying to help you get ahead. Do you have any idea how competitive it is out there? But it's wrong. It's fraud. I shot back. Grandpa's face turned stern. Listen here, young lady. We sacrificed everything to give you a good life after your parents died. Is it so wrong to want the best for you? I felt the pang of guilt, but I couldn't let it go. But this isn't right. It feels like we're building a life that's not even mine. No buts, Grandma interrupted. This is how the world works, Margaret. You need every advantage you can get. The next day at school, I pulled Zoe and Trevor aside at lunch, my stomach twisting. Guys, I need to talk to you. It's serious. I explained everything from the valedictorian lie to the made-up accomplishments. Zoe's eyes widened in shock. That's messed up, Margaret. You've got to come clean before this gets worse. Trevor shrugged. I don't know. Maybe your grandparents have a point. College admissions are cutthroat. Why not use every advantage? Are you serious? Zoe shot him a glare. It's lying. It's playing the game, Trevor argued. Everyone exaggerates on applications. Not like this, I said, feeling the pressure building. This is way beyond exaggeration. So, what are you going to do? Zoe asked gently. I don't know, I admitted, but I have a really bad feeling about this. Little did I know, things were about to get much, much worse. The lies were starting to snowball, and my life was spinning out of control. One morning, I opened the mail to find an official-looking envelope. Congratulations, you've been invited to speak at the National Youth Leadership Conference. I nearly choked on my cereal. Grandma, what is this? She beamed. Oh, isn't it wonderful? I may have mentioned your achievements to a few people. Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was the local newspaper. Miss Thompson, we'd love to do a feature on your animal shelter work. Your story is truly inspiring. I stammered through the call, making vague promises to get back to them. The moment I hung up, another call came in, a college recruiter. Margaret, we were blown away by your application. Could we schedule an interview? It was relentless. Every day brought more lies to uphold, more stories to remember. My grades started slipping as I spent more time dodging questions than studying. One day, Mr. Jenkins cornered me in the hallway, his face concerned. Margaret, I'm confused. Your actual record doesn't match all these accolades you're receiving. What's going on? I mumbled some excuse and practically ran out of the hall. Trevor caught up with me later, his brow furrowed. Margaret, what's up with you lately? You're always distracted, always making excuses. I'm just stressed about college stuff, I said weakly. He shook his head. It's more than that. I feel like I don't even know you anymore. Maybe we should take a break. I watched him walk away, straight toward Alexis Foster. A few days later, Alexis cornered me at my locker. Her smug smile said it all. I know what you've been up to, Thompson. All those fake accomplishments. I've got proof. My blood ran cold. What are you talking about? She smirked. Drop out of the running for the Mitchell Scholarship or I'll expose everything. At home, my grandparents were in full fantasy mode, chatting with neighbors. Did we tell you about our dear friend, the governor? Grandpa was saying with a smile. He's always asking for our advice. I couldn't take it anymore. I retreated to my room, tempted to just give in. What was the point of fighting? But then I saw Zu's disappointed face when she was passed over for a leadership position in the debate club, a role she truly deserved but missed out on because of my inflated reputation. That's when I knew I couldn't keep living this lie. It was time to come clean no matter the consequences. I spent the next week gathering every piece of evidence I needed. My real transcripts, records of my actual volunteer hours, everything. Then, I waited until my grandparents were in the kitchen, brainstorming for my Harvard interview. We'll need to step up our game, Grandma was saying. Don't worry, Grandpa replied. We could say she interned at the White House. I hit record on my phone, capturing every word. The next day, I scheduled a meeting with Mr. Jenkins and the college recruiters who'd been hounding me. My hands shook as I walked into the conference room. Thank you all for coming, I began, my voice trembling. I have a confession to make. I played the recording, showed them my real records, and explained everything. When I finished, the room fell silent. Mr. Jenkins was the first to speak. Margaret, I don't know what to say. This is a serious ethical breach. One of the recruiters nodded, but then added, it is, but coming forward like this, that takes real courage. The fallout was intense. My grandparents faced social ostracism, and there was talk of possible legal trouble. I couldn't bear to face them, so I moved in with Sue's family, who welcomed me with open arms. Alexis tried to expose my story, but it backfired when her own unethical behavior came to light in the process.
Trevor reached out, apologetic. Margaret, I'm sorry I doubted you. Can we start over? I shook my head. I'm sorry, Trevor, but right now, I need to focus on myself. In the months that followed, I dedicated myself to rebuilding my life on genuine accomplishments. I started a support group for students dealing with ethical pressures, doubled down on my schoolwork, and even secured a real internship at an animal shelter. When graduation day came, I wasn't valedictorian, but as I stood there in my cap and gown, I felt something far better, pride in my real achievements and excitement for the next chapter. Zoe grinned at me from the audience, and I smiled back. This time, it was going to be my real story. Margaret's journey from deception to redemption raises a question for all of us. How far would you go to achieve your dreams? If you were in her shoes, would you have come clean or kept the deception alive for a shot at a prestigious college? This isn't just about college admissions, it's about the ethical choices we face every day. Is there a point where the ends justify the means, or is honesty always the best policy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever felt pressure to exaggerate or bend the truth? How did you handle it? Your insights might just help someone else wrestling with a similar dilemma. If Margaret's story resonated with you, hit that like button to help more people find it. And if you want to dive into more stories that challenge our values and make us think, consider subscribing. Integrity is one of your most valuable assets. Protect it, and don't be afraid to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. So what would you have done in Margaret's place? Let us know in the comments.